Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live here on Thinking Critical YouTube. Here every Saturday. Been there for 6 years or whatever. We got a special guest with us today. He's got a nice cup of Joe. We've got David Hedgecock, used to be the EIC of IDW before it all went to crap back in the late 2010s, 2016, 2017, something like that, David?
No, that was when I kind of stepped in. So I'm the one that made it go to crap, probably.
You're the one that ruined everything?
Yeah. So if you want to hear all the excuses, I can give them to you.
Stop breaking things.
No, listen.
TMNT was still good then, and so was Ghostbusters there for a minute.
David put Netho Diaz on G.I. Joe, so he did not break anything. Yeah. That was an amazing get.
Yeah. Hey, we did what we could. I assure you that every single thing that we did between G.I. Joe, Transformers, and any of the other properties we were working on, we were always doing it with the best of intentions and with completely like love in our hearts. I can't love G.I. Joe and Larry Hama's G.I. Joe in particular more than I do.
Very nice.
Yeah, ask me questions. I'm happy to answer. I can defend myself.
Oh no! This is not a witch hunt, sir. You've got a project out that's live on Kickstarter for at least a few more days.
Yeah.
What's going on right now?
Yeah, so we're on Kickstarter right now. This is actually I'm I guess largely out of comic books. Comic books have moved more to. I still do a lot of consulting for various companies. So I'm still working in the space, but most of my time, energy, and talent is spent doing publishing outside of comic books. I own a couple of companies now that focus on tax education. So that is a lot more boring and a lot more lucrative. And but I have stepped back into comic books sort of more as a fan of comic books again, rather than just, comics as a business, if that makes sense. And so about a year ago, I had an opportunity, a buddy of mine, Rola Mayada out of Uruguay, who I'd worked with for off and on for probably 10, 15 years. Probably one of the best artists for me. I just love his stuff. Back when I owned Ape Entertainment, we did like Kung Fu Panda and Penguins of Madagascar, a lot of all ages titles. And Rolando was one of the heavy lifters on the Kung Fu Panda stuff, as well as a project called Pocket God, which was the best-selling digital comic book in the history of the planet at the time that we were doing it. We were moving 50 to 60,000 units a month, the best kept secret in comics. And Rollo was the artist for that. So anyway, over the years, when I moved over to IDW, every 6 months I would check in with Rollo. I'd be like, "Hey, Rollo, come do some work for us over here, right?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm too busy. So about a year ago, he checked in with me. He said, "Hey, David, I'm a little light on work. You got anything that you can help me out with?" And I was floored. My jaw hit the ground because 10 years I had never ever heard him say those words. And so it was a Monday, and I was like, "Absolutely yes. I'll have something for you on Wednesday. Don't worry about it. I got you." And oh no, what am I going to give him? I had no idea what it was going to be. So I said, "You know what I'm going to do?" I had this personal project that had been floating around the back of my head. And I said, "You know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to have him work for somebody else. I'm going to have him work for me." So that's where Super KAIJU Rock and Roller Derby Fun Time Go came. It's this idea that I had floating around in the back of my head for many years. And finally said, "You know what? Now's the time. Let's do it." And so thanks to Rollo basically saying, "Hey, what you got?" I got off my buns and wrote a really cool, fun script. Brought in a couple really great people to help me edit and letter and design and color. Well, Rollo's doing the color. And now I've got a really fun book. The story is about a group of 20-something girls who are on a roller derby team and also in a rock band together. The roller derby team is called the Diva Demons, and the rock band's called the Burnouts. And they kind of go around touring the West in the story, sort of lighting up the arena with their prowess, their physical prowess in the rink, and then they rock out usually somewhere either in the venue or afterwards at a concert. And they're just kind of like, in that phase where they just got too much talent, but not really enough money. And that's kind of where we find them. And then the kaiju show up. And that's where we go from there. So
David pitched me on this years ago. He was like, I got this idea, let me know what you think of it. And I was like, oh, you need to do that. You need to do that now. And fortunately, he didn't do it now. Like when I said do it now, fortunately, he waited until the industry kind of changed to where you could go out and you could do that book, and you could you didn't have to put it out in the direct market. You could go out directly to the fans. So if you guys get a chance, check it out. The campaign looks fantastic. I know enough of the story from David telling me about it over the years that I think that you guys should really this crowd here on Thinking Critical, you guys will really dig it. It's a lot of fun.
If you're interested in learning some information about it, there's a link in the video description to the campaign. But you've only got a couple more days left, right, David?
Yeah, Tuesday around 7:00 Pacific it's over. Then we're knocking on the door for our second stretch goal, so I know we're going to knock that down, and we got a couple more planned. I'm hoping we can get there, doing everything we can to get there. But it's already funded, and the book's already done, so it's and I've been doing this for 20 years. We've got one of the best printers in the industry that we're using to print the books, and all the extras are all done by top-notch people. We've got Darren Bennett is our Eisner Award-winning letterer and book designer, so it's going to be a great package. I'm super happy for people to have it. It's 48 pages. It's going to be a hardcover with a nice dust jacket. Slightly oversized, although I'm not. I shouldn't be saying that because that was supposed to be a surprise. But
surprise!
It's really going to show off the art. It's going to be a beautiful book. We've got guys like the Zhang brothers who did a couple covers and 8 pages worth of backup stories. Neto Diaz, Paul Pelletier, Nicoletta Baldari, Paulina Ganucheau, Ed Bennis, just a murderer's row of talent, like doing either covers or just pinups. So I'm super excited for it. It looks really great. And awesome. I think the script doesn't suck. So,
well, congratulations on being fully funded. It's already there. And if you're interested in that, like I said, there's a link in the video description. We'll certainly talk about it again before the show's over. But we are also welcoming back Josh. Did you go to Vegas?
I did. I went for the Nerdrotic Geeks and Gamers meetup and was hanging out with some friends there and had a good time, and then got sick. Everyone got sick immediately leaving Vegas, and I was like, yeah, I skipped that. And then I think it was Friday. It just hit me like a freaking freight train. So then I was out.
Did you go to the seafood buffet or something?
No, it was like all like throat. I'm like, one of the hookers Max tried to get me to like hook up with at some point, but who knows?
It's always the hookers.
It's always the hook. I mean, if it's in Vegas, it's always the hookers. Yeah, blame the. See, Jim knows.
Yes.
But no, it's been more than a month since I've been on the stream. So I'm happy to be back. I'm ready to talk some nerdy comic stuff.
Very nice. So Max gave you, what's the kissing disease?
Mono?
He gave you mono?
Herpes.
I mean, look, get a little alcohol, get some like big wins going, and who knows what's going to happen.
Well, very nice. Well, I'm glad to have you back. Got some fun stuff to talk about. We've also got returning Jim. Now, normally, Jim, you almost kill yourself during the given week, or someone tries to kill you. But this week, you accidentally almost killed your wife?
Yeah. She got bit by a spider of some sort.
And you told her to walk it off.
Yeah, I told her it was ridiculous. She had this crazy bruise on her wrist, and she's like, I think it's a spider bite, because we were doing some lawn work. And I'm like, shut your mouth. Like, it's not a spider. She is so crazy with the stuff. Like when she said that she was sick when she was fixing the plumbing down in the basement, but she turned out that she did kind of get sick from that.
She
And
got
so-
spritzed with
dysentery.
food.
I didn't learn, and I kept yelling at her. It's nothing. And then she had a doctor's appointment the next day, so I told her to just wait. They went and they freaked out. They ended up
Why
saying
did
that
you
it was
wait?
some crazy deal. Well, she waited. I just told her.
No, the doctor said that to her.
Right.
Why did you wait? You should have been in the
yeah,
emergency room.
yeah. That's what he said. And like it ended up where it was like one of those where it had like a red dot and like a lot of black circles around it. So it kind of
That's
was
called
obvious it was
necrosis,
something.
Jim. That's
Yeah,
flesh dying.
She actually, since I talked to you, yesterday or the day before, they have her on like a series of these antibiotics and things like that. And every time she takes one, she curses me out. She yells because they're like horse pills now. But I think it's kind of funny. It wasn't me. That's what
I mean,
It's
based
totally your
on-
fault.
Based on my own personal reading and studying, the superpowers are coming any moment.
Yeah,
so
that's
this,
what I was thinking.
ultimately, this is a good thing.
Well, if you know my wife, that she will go the dark side, so I'll have to watch out. She'll end up being an evil villain, which she has been to me for years. So that's
all
fine.
the other spider people.
Should
Exactly.
be
Yes.
more chasm than Spider-Man.
Yeah. Hopefully, if they have chasm, I'm out of here. Then I'm out of
goodness.
chasm. But yeah, so yeah, I'm okay though. I'm better.
As long as you're okay, Jim.
That's what I say. That's my philosophy.
Now, Jim, your YouTube channel, Weird Science Comics, is picking up steam. Is there anything people should be checking out this week that you're incredibly proud of?
No, but it's picking up steam. I end up where this week it was a rough week, so I have a couple reviews, some things. We'll be talking about Blood Hunt. I have that review, and I'll have a lot more things coming up next week, especially in the indie side of things. This week was rough, though. This was a rough week of comics, and I'll probably have, actually, you mentioned, I'll probably have some things on the free comic book day stuff, so look out for that.
It was a rough week for comic books. Jim.
It was very rough, very, very rough.
DC only put out 5 books. Like all the major releases on the indie scene weren't this week. There was one Space Ghost, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Me and you were talking when we do our Patreon review show, the Hot or Not show, that you kind of had to finagle things into like, okay, that's kind of good for this week. And it's something we didn't want to do, but we kind of were forced to.
yeah, you had to make special exceptions just to
Yeah.
talk about something that was good. So
Yep.
That'll be fun. We'll be getting to Blood Hunt soon enough. We've also got Aaron Sparrow. Who is that handsome gentleman behind you?
Oh my gosh, have you guys seen any good comic book art lately? I don't know.
Yeah.
This week we revealed Kenneth Roquefort's cover for Kneel Before Doomface, and everybody got really, really excited, almost as excited as I did when I saw the first sketches come in, and then when I saw the finished product, I was completely blown away. Thank you so much to Kenneth. He really leveled us up. In terms of people signing up for the mailing list at kneelbeforedoomface@gmail.com, and just a general sense of excitement. So we got a lot of attention on the upcoming campaign this week. It's been really great. I'm super excited about it.
You seem giddy.
I am giddy. I can't stop looking at it. It's like my phone wallpaper. Like I'm gonna get a big print made, like a big wall print made. It's just, man, I'm gonna tattoo it on my face.
I think it's also how fast this happened, because we were texting in the group, and Aaron's like, guys, I might have a big guy doing a cover for us. And we're like, oh, okay. And then he told us. And usually when you hear that, it's like, what, a couple of weeks later, you see a cover?
Yeah,
and it was like a day and a half later. It's like, boom, here's a cover. So,
yeah, it
looks
completely
pretty
blew me. Like Ken went from here's a couple of sketch ideas, and tell me a little bit about the characters so I can put some personality in it. And so I did. And then the next thing I know, he's like, what color are Lexi's eyes? And he's like, sending me pictures of like her face. And he's like, with the pen on the screen, like coloring it up. So yeah, just absolutely. What a pro, man.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Very, very, very nice. Last but not least, we do have Doc. And Doc and I just had a fantastic conversation about that Dan Buckley interview on ICB2.com.
Oh,
and obviously we're going to review Harley Quinn Annual this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, as a guy from the corporate world, I can smell corporate gobbledygook just miles away. And that interview is, if you want a lampooning of someone speaking corporate gobbledygook, that's the one for you.
Absolutely. But could you smell the chimichangas is the bigger question, Doc.
No, because he's still talking about his publishing strategy for Deadpool, the movie, as if the movie's not fucking coming out in like another
All right, Doc.
few
So
months.
how you been? You've been doing all right? Everyone's had a good week, other than
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah, didn't die. Although the girlfriend was in the hospital the other night.
You
It's
pulled a
her-
Jim?
No,
She gets hit by a spider?
no spider. This happens like once a year where I basically get to spend an entire evening after work in an ER because she's not feeling well. And
Poison?
no, I don't know what it is. It's always something, but it's always like the same thing. It's like she gets really dehydrated. And then they end up having to just give her like 2 bags of fucking saline
Saline, yeah.
and one of those, migraine cocktails. And, it happens once a year. So I just kind of, I need to start, timing it to find out
It's your
if it's
anniversary.
exactly 365 days. So I could like throw that in my calendar moving forward, but we'll see.
Very nice. Well, I got a big birthday coming up. Tomorrow is my son's 5th birthday, so we're gonna have fun with that, and should have fun with that stuff. And I do need to give a big shout out to the new supporters on Thinking Critical Patreon. First of all, thank you very much to Mike Ray, who fights crime as the instigator and is protecting the people of Revolt City. Special thank you very much to The Perfect Part, the protector of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, for signing back on to Think Critical Patreon, as well as MS Swan, who soars disguised as the Sky Soarer. Makes kind of sense. And he's the protector of Cloud Haven. Thank you all very much for supporting Thinking Critical on Patreon. If you are interested in checking that out, over 8 hours of new podcasts every single week. There's a link in the video description. And we do have, I guess, a few super chats to get through quick. Caleb Lyle says, congrats to Ripper for making a cameo in DC. I never thought Josh Williamson was that petty.
It's,
I don't think
Mark
Josh
Russell.
did it.
Yeah,
it was Mark Russell.
Yeah,
Mark
yeah.
Russell.
I
And,
do
and
know
everyone
Mark
believes he
Russell
was
is
that petty.
Yeah, he's definitely that petty. He's done it before.
Are we sure that was Ripper? Because he had like Hulk Hogan arms. Like they were very big.
Were they
They were
hairy?
cute.
Were there hairy shoulders?
No,
Was
no,
that
there
the
was
giveaway?
No, hair. No, that
We
was
call
Well, he had
that
a
we call,
beard
yeah,
and a
yeah,
hat.
we call that legally distinct.
yes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was just a lame little thing anyway. Nobody who cares what Mark Russell says. That's what I think.
There you go. Wade Kraber. Aaron, you need that Dark Empire Luke Skywalker hot toy. Let the old feelings flow through you. Legends Luke is forever. Mark is separate from Luke.
It's a tough week to try to sell me on a on a Mark Hamill likeness, but yeah, I loved the look of Luke from Dark Empire. On those Dave Dorman covers, it's a really great figure. I just don't know my feelings on Star Wars. We all know how complicated they are at this point, so maybe
But you're getting Revan.
getting Revan. Yeah, no, Revan's ordered.
Yeah, he looked pretty damn good. Very nice. Calvin says, oh, my mistake. It was Mark Russell. Also, I hate Tatiana Maslany after that Bounded Comics interview. She can go to hell and stay there. Are you going to allow that? Are you going to allow that, Josh? You're the biggest Tatiana Maslany fan in the world.
Look, I'm the type of person that I can separate a person's opinions from their art, and I will stand by. She's probably one of the better actresses in Hollywood today as far as her skill set goes. And if you are wondering why, just go watch Orphan Black, and that'll tell you everything you need to know.
There you go. Very nice. And finally, he says she almost admitted that that was Doomcock. Kevin Feige had no idea what he's doing. It's possible that he didn't want Hugh Jackman in Deadpool.
All those things are true.
I don't think it was a Kevin Feige idea for Hugh Jackman. I think that was Ryan Reynolds. I think that's been the whole
100%.
story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kevin
been wanting to do that for
Feige's been
years.
open about how he, and which this goes back like a year and a half to 2 years ago, but he had told Hugh Jackman, like, let Logan be your ending. That's a perfect ending. Which I know someone on this panel, Aaron, doesn't agree, but I agree. I think Logan's a great film.
Doc
But
also
I'm
hates
excited.
Logan. Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't
Again,
make sense to me. I think it's a good film.
I don't hate Logan. I just think it's a bad Wolverine movie.
I
There's
heard
a
you
difference.
hate Logan. That's all I'm hearing is I hate Logan. That's what I'm getting.
It's
down.
not a Wolverine movie. It's an Old Man Logan movie, Doc.
Yes, and you know what? I still have yet to get a good Wolverine movie.
But it's not an old man Logan movie because there's no evil Hulk. There's no big dead corpse of Giant Man, although it looks like we're getting that in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Right.
There's no Red Skull wearing Captain America's outfit. There's no blind Hawkeye. It's not.
Yeah, and the closest thing you got to Reavers was a guy with a robot hand.
That's not Donald Pierce. Donald Pierce is not a hillbilly. I mean, I love that actor, and he's good in the movie with what they gave him, but it's not Donald Pierce.
No,
Logan's a fantastic movie. That was really good.
Yeah.
And
I
what's
actually
wrong with
cried in that one,
hillbillies?
and I don't cry often. Yeah, what's wrong with hillbillies?
See, I'm with you.
Doc
It's
was
one
talking crap on Yellowstone to me with me earlier.
Hicklib bullshit.
Yeah, he was calling it like hillbilly shows or something. I was like, what's wrong
No,
with cowboys?
Hicklib. There's a difference. It's where they stick a bunch of bullshit city liberal talking points into rural people's mouths for no fucking reason.
I haven't got to that point yet. He's still murdering people by the dozen in the show where I'm at.
I'll tell you guys a good Western is that Lawman Bass Reeves. I thought that was really well done.
Yep.
And that
I
guy should
actually
play
did
Carl.
like
That guy should play Carl Weathers in a biopic, man.
Should he play Chubbs in the
Yes, he should be.
Happy
He should be
Gilmore
Chubbs
sequel?
Peterson. Yeah, when Chubbs Peterson comes back, and
All right. So thank you very much to everyone for supporting the channel. We do need to get into our big moments this week. I don't know. You said you've come back to comic books as more of a fan, David. Did you get to read the Blood Hunt #1, the kickoff of the big 60-issue Marvel Comics event, summer event this year?
I did. Yeah. Thanks for sending that over. I don't know that I would have picked it up otherwise.
What are your thoughts as somebody that's obviously a writer, but also an EIC?
Yeah, well, it's more of an editor than a writer. I feel like Jed McKay is like a solid like B plus writer. Like I feel like he's like, but I also think like potentially at Marvel right now, sort of in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So I think Jed's probably the right guy for that project right now, because B plus is like an A talent over there right now with some of the writing. I just feel like they're in this weird phase where, not that they don't have good writers, but I think it's just they're developing talent still right now. I feel like. So anyway. I think Jed's a rock solid writer, and Pepe Larraz is really good. I didn't love the character designs, but I liked them. I thought the story was fine. I mean, I don't really have a lot of connection. I'm not a big like super horror guy. The gore was a little interesting. It was a little more through the roof than I think I've seen at Marvel. I feel like DC has done that before.
Certainly. Yeah.
Was
but I've never seen Marvel do that, go push it that far. So I don't know. Once you kind of uncork that bottle, like I don't know how you put the genie back in, but I mean that's the choice they're going with. So it's not like Hammer horror at Marvel. I guess it could be a fun thing if they pull it off right. But I don't know. It's a weird direction for me.
It's one of their new gimmicks now. They've got the Red Band version of it with 4 extra pages that are supposedly just too
like
gory.
Super extra gore. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Interior variants, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was fine. I thought. Are we doing spoilers? Like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We always do spoilers. We don't care.
I thought making Blade the bad guy that's not going to stick, right? That's not a thing that's going to hang around, right?
No, there'll be some. Other
He's
reason,
being mind controlled.
He's
That's
being
why his eyes
controlled.
are red.
Yeah,
Mind
it was kind of
controlled,
set
okay.
up. It was set up in his regular solo book a
Or-
bit, but not
okay.
much.
I
Yeah.
think
Or
you're
it's-
giving Marvel too much credit, Jim.
Yeah.
His
I think
eyes turned red twice.
His eyes turned red twice, and they ended up saying, "I think that he's not right. Something's wrong with him." And then he
Okay.
said, and then stopped and said, "I'm
it's
okay."
Dracula that glamored everybody
Now,
into
yeah.
seeing him.
No,
as
and that's
Blade.
the thing. Dracula is in the tie-ins, and he's teaming up with the Avengers. And Blade has Dracula's blood, and I think that what it is that some entity that couldn't control Dracula when he had his own deal is actually controlling Blade.
So it's vampire onslaught. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
That's what it is.
Or he'll
And,
be the demiurge or the demigod,
Yeah, it'll be
whatever
something.
it was again. Something like that.
And Wes saying that I'm giving Marvel too much credit. I'm not giving him any credit because the idea that Blade book should have been canceled 5 issues prior, and they just let it hang around until that last issue.
For the Red Eyes?
Yeah, for the Red Eyes. That's it. Nothing. They extended a story that didn't need to get extended just to have Red Eyes, but never realized nobody's reading it. And then should have had those scenes repeated at the beginning of this event just to show people what had happened. But
where are you guys with Benjamin Percy?
I think he's
never lived up to his potential.
Okay.
Middling.
Okay.
He does some really good stuff. When he hits it, he really nails it, and then when he misses it, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at.
I kind of feel about him, David, the way that you back in the day, you told me that you felt about Rick Remender, where it's like, oh, I really like this idea, and then you go, oh, I don't like where he took it.
Yeah, like Rick Remender sets up these concepts where it's like, oh my God, he can go a million directions with this idea, and only one direction would be bad, and that's the one he always picks for me. It's like every single like, no, that's the only one I don't like. Come on, Rick, come on. The other thing about Rick Remender that I've told you, Aaron, is that he works out a lot of his daddy issues on the page, and is like, I'm just not into it.
That's my biggest problem with Remender.
Every single character's dad has alcohol problems. It's like, come on, man.
He even did it with Cap. Even like all of a sudden Cap was like, my dad was an alcoholic.
Too many of the protagonists are just bad people. Yeah. Like the opening scene, I think of Black Science within the first issue, like the protagonist kids walking on him and banging his secretary. It's like, I don't want this guy to win. Like, what are you doing? You breaking up your family and emotionally traumatizing your children. I'm supposed to root for the guy. That's not how I work.
I do love Rick's stuff. Well, I really enjoy Rick's stuff, and he's always paired with like the best artists, right? And for me, art is king in comic books, so he's smart in that regard.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the Sacrificers that came out within the past year, it's really, really good.
Who's I haven't seen that one. Who's the artist on that one?
It's
isn't it like Fumiara? I wasn't familiar with them.
Yeah,
but...
Max Fumiara.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They're actually changing the artist coming up. I forget who it is. I just got an email yesterday about it. Yeah,
I don't like that, but it's a good series.
Letter page is pretty cool too.
Jim named the letter pages when he wrote in, acting like he was a 12-year-old.
Exactly.
Girl.
Yep. 12-year-old girl. That's how you get to name the letters page.
So I sent you the review copy, Josh, and you haven't been able to keep up with comic books as much as you had in the past. What were your overall thoughts? I thought it was fun enough, but there's a lot of stuff that didn't make sense. That was
look, so I haven't really been keeping up with Marvel, and I haven't been reading Blade. So if there's anything in that led into this, I missed it.
Barely.
I thought it was fine at best. I mean, I'm not going to say that it was bad, but it definitely wasn't good. It really throws you into the story, but it moves too quickly. It feels like it's lacking setup. And even story structure wise, they tried to do things here that just didn't work. For me, I feel like there's no weight or substance. Like, we're watching all these terrible things happen to the Avengers, but the whole time I'm going, well, this isn't going to stick. And it happens so fast that there's no moment to breathe and taking in like, oh, Thor just got stabbed through the head. That should be a pretty big thing, and it's just on to the next thing. But even the twist with Dracula, like, for me, it was blatantly obvious because you got him in the truck saying like, beam me up, Scotty, and then suddenly he's not there. It's like, okay, well, he's bad. Like, you're just showing your hand way too early. And I
even
thought
the solicitations. The Midnight Suns are hunting down Blade because he's teamed with the vampires. They'd released that 2 months ago.
In fairness, though, based on again, I think Jed McKay's a mediocre writer. I mean, he's fine, but when he misses big. And so that whole thing with Blade, I was torn between, okay, Blade's either the bad guy or, oh, Jed McKay forgot what the fuck he was writing again, because that's actually a possibility. And with the terrible editorial, nobody's going to fucking catch it because they don't read this shit anyway. They just publish it.
But we have to be honest here. Is this story Jed's story, or is this Marvel going, hey, this is what we want to do?
No,
write this.
Well, I think it's a combination of both. It was kind of where Jed was going with his Moon Knight story.
I assume
Um,
it was a story from Moon Knight.
And even
But-
Doctor
They wanna build
Strange
it up.
kind of sets up a little, and
Yeah.
a lot of his things
But-
kind of go with it.
But like in typical Marvel fashion, they take something that's maybe a 2 or 3 or maybe a 5-issue arc that's the culmination of somebody else's like in title story and then blow it up into an event that doesn't need to exist.
Yeah. And I think that, when we talk about like the X-Men and they have a certain amount of books that they need to have, I think that Marvel needs to have an event each year. And I think David's right. The idea that they looked around and, well, Jed McKay's not the greatest writer. He's one of the better ones at Marvel. Plus, I think there's something to be said that he's kind of a guy who seems likable. I never hear anybody say, I hate that Jed McKay. Oh my God, that Jed McKay said this or that, whatever. He's kind of the easy choice to do it. But the thing that I think about him as a writer, he doesn't write good villains. His villains are pretty
Boring.
weak. They're pretty boring. They're pretty weak. And even coming in with one of the bigger things in his book is Moon Knight. That's the big thing. And one of the biggest villains was the Structure, which was a pyramid scheme, Ponzi vampire business thing. And that comes back in this, where Blade says, I'm leading them now. Then he also seems to have these big groups where they come in with these poses with the craziest names and looks, which are fine, but they never end up being anything memorable after the fact. You kind of sit there and like, you see that group and you're like, I see a mummy with a bunch of barbed wire and there's a lady with smoke legs, and you never really hit because the names get so wacky and how he introduces them. But he's had these type of villains in the Avengers twice now, and now we have it here. It seems to be his
That's more of, I think, the Hickman influence.
yeah.
Hickman's been doing that for 15 years now. None of those characters
They don't
have
hit.
ever
Yeah.
mattered.
Yeah.
He makes them matter for his story, but literally no one remembers they exist.
Mhm.
Blood Coven is a better name than the Ashen Combine for a bunch
Or
of
the
villains.
Twilight Court. Remember,
Or the
we
Twilight
we
Court.
have all these. They just keep
Or,
coming back.
I mean, the closest thing to matter is the Black Order. And
Yeah.
And that's what it seems to be.
and literally, no, I can't tell you a single name of anybody in that fucking thing.
Yeah, but even the Black Order was handled better in comics than this. Like it felt like they kind of built up to being
They were a
I
threat
mean,
when they showed
that
up.
was a-
Like they felt like a threat.
right.
That's one of the problems of Blood Hunt 1 is you're introducing 6 new villains that are power equivalent of the Avengers, but you've never seen them do anything and you don't know how their powers work or what their powers even
Yeah.
are. So you got the one big statue guy going, she eats souls and he eats does
And you don't
this.
even know which one you're talking
And they
about.
all
Yeah.
eat things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They ate a lot of metaphysical
That's
stuff.
C.B. Cebulski's influence. I
Yeah,
believe.
God
Waiting for the
forgive-
one that eats sushi. Yeah.
Forgive me for saying this, but they should have taken like Scott Snyder's lead with the metal and
Yeah.
had like one-offs for each of the characters that way you can get an idea of who these villains are.
You're already
Just
doing
feature
60
them.
books.
Yeah,
you're
Well,
already
no,
doing 60
what I'm
books. Mm-hmm.
hold on. What I'm saying is that
No, I'm
should have
agreeing with
been
you.
part of the story instead of the 60 books.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah,
Mine
no,
was-
I'm agreeing with
yeah,
you. Like
some
if
of
you're
those.
already saying like we're doing 60 books, you could have peeled off 6 of those to do
Yeah.
individual one shots about the characters.
I
themselves.
think that speaking of the 60 books, I think one of the problems is too, because people read it's okay. It's kind of bland. It actually, I say bland, but it's actually balls to the wall action. But like Josh said, completely, it doesn't really hit. It doesn't feel like it has a lot of substance or weight
Yeah.
behind it yet. So people say, oh, well, you have to wait till issue 2 or 3. But by that point, we're going to be 20 tie-ins in. So the idea of Marvel trying to get this much, like you need to have this first issue hit well enough so that people will then, oh my God, I got to get these 12 tie-ins until issue 2. And I don't
Yeah.
see that.
I'd
Oh,
like to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'd like to pose a question to everyone, and it's kind of related to this. So this is the problem I'm seeing. Themed supervillain teams introduced in a series or especially an event are completely immemorable. That's my thesis here. And can you think of one where any of the characters are actually memorable? Because you can think of super villain teams that work, like the Brotherhood, but they're not themed. Like every individual character has unique, design or whatnot.
the
You
night
look at
shift, maybe.
but can you remember any of the people?
Yeah, Gypsy Moth, Tatterdemalion,
No.
Shroud,
Okay, all right.
Digger.
I mean, okay.
But you know, again, Doc, you're talking to a guy who pored over the handbook of the Marvel
Yeah,
Universe
yeah.
passively and makes action figures of these obscure characters. So I might not be the
I'm gonna
best
go-
person to get it.
I'm gonna go Wrecking Crew, right?
Oh yeah, there
Okay,
you go. Wrecking Crew.
Okay, the Wrecking Crew I can get with, but is that more because we saw them so frequently? They were presented to us so often.
Well, I think that's true of anything, though, right? Like
The more familiarity.
Yeah, I think all these characters have to show up again. They have to prove their worth, right? Like something's gonna. I think sometimes creatively, you throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, right? Some people are better at it than others. So I think it remains to be seen whether any of these guys come back. I don't particularly visually. I'm always about the visuals. I'm always about the visuals, and I think visually, these are interesting. Pepe did some cool designs, but I don't know if there's anything there that makes me go like, "Oh man, that's really hot!" Like that the girl with the mask and the blood skirt thing. That's kind of cool, but that's also really hard to draw panel to panel. So I don't think it's going to take off. But I do think repetition is a thing, right? Like the Vulture wasn't the Vulture the first time he showed up. He got that way over time.
And
Go ahead, Jim.
And I was just going to say, I agree with David. The idea, like exactly what he's saying. I don't think anybody's sitting there saying, "Oh my God, that's my favorite member of this team." You're kind of just like, I don't really know who they are. They have cool designs, and you could say that. But I hope that he can develop them a little. But I don't know that you're going to have the space to do that in the main book. There's not many issues compared to the 60 that you had.
Does this feel to you guys like a lot of these characters are shit Pepe did for X-Men that got left on the cutting room floor and he picked back up, especially with all the Iraqi mutants?
To me, it feels like he went through a D&D manual and looked at the demons that are in there.
Okay.
Kind of did
the Fiend Folio more than the
yeah, absolutely. Nerd.
Yes.
By the way, I wish Carrie, Nerdy Girl Creates in the chat, said that she backed David's book.
Awesome.
So fantastic. Carrie, I wish I had like some kind of reward, like a little video clip or like a little like audio thing that I could play.
You do the
but
heart?
being a mod on Wes's channel has no perks.
We're losers. We don't have
Can't do the hearts.
Thank you, Gary.
I can boot spam porn bots, but that's about it. We haven't had those recently.
We haven't.
I just wanted to point that out.
But now that you said it,
you put it out there. The algorithm's gonna just pump a bunch of them into the chat.
I agree. Look, I'm gonna agree with David. How you follow up with these characters is gonna be the key. And I think part of the problem that we see, especially with modern day comics, is they don't have a plan. So your follow-ups end up being like uninspired or weak, or we have this, we might as well do something, and that usually kind of leads to their downfall. And I'll even use like what we're seeing in DC Comics and even Wonder Woman to a degree with Grail. Like Grail was a pretty awesome character when she was introduced in Justice League. And then they did absolutely nothing with her. And then we're like, oh, we've got this cool character, and just kind of half-assed it. And now it's a waste of space. Hell, even in Court of Owls, I feel that way about. But
Pandora, another character that they built up and then did nothing with.
But my biggest issue with this book, and I know I said it's not bad, but for me, that's where I'm landing on this book is worse than it being bad, because I finished this book and I felt nothing. I didn't care. I didn't care if I read another issue. I didn't really care about what happened in the book. And for me, I'd much rather go, God, I hated this book, than leave it saying I felt nothing.
Yeah, be hot or cold. Don't be bland.
Yeah, and this is beige as a story. I mean, it's perfectly. What the hell is the dog making this noise? I have no fucking clue what.
I thought you had chili last night or something. Holy moly!
I have no idea what noise this dog is making right now. Holy shit! All right. Regardless, like it was a little predictable at times. Honestly, and look, I know people like a lot of the digital coloring. They talk about Marte Gracia's art. It looks like fucking mud. I'm sorry. You can't read this and distinguish shit in this comic. Sorry.
My big
muddy.
thing is just that, the big twist at the end, they kind of have, okay, we're going to have a vampire story and everybody's going to want Blade involved, but we'll make Blade the villain. I think they thought that was going to hit harder. But even the idea that it looks like, and especially in that red band, if you look, like Doctor Strange is in big trouble. In the regular issue, it looks like, he got run through, but in the red band, he's completely just torn apart. But Jed McKay just killed Doctor Strange, last year.
a year and a half ago.
It's like a repeat. It's almost like the idea of Marvel. They always come back with those number ones. What is Jed McKay just going to keep killing Doctor Strange? And it kind of ends up where I'm like, all right, like
Marvel Kenny.
I was going to say, if they want to make
exactly.
him Marvel's Kenny, I'll take it. Why not? It'll be interesting.
So,
well, I don't think anybody buys the stabbing the character through the back and having the blade come out the front thing in the last page of a book anymore. Even if it wasn't Doctor Strange, who just died a year ago, it's overdone. It's so overdone that I do it in the first 3 pages of Doomface as a goof.
See, there you go. Now in the red band, to be he's completely ripped in two, so guts everywhere. But again, that's kind of a gimmick type deal, and it just felt weird that it was that again, and it's Jed McKay killing Doctor Strange off again.
So the red band is 4 additional pages. Is that essentially what it is? Just so I'm trying to understand. Like,
the cliffhanger is just a different cliffhanger. It's more of a gory, I said ripped apart, and then I guess some extra pages. But I haven't seen it myself. I've just seen cliffhanger. But they said that it's not really anything more than just look at that person getting destroyed.
And then what are they doing? They charging an extra $1 for the red band? Is that what they're doing? Okay.
Yeah.
It's got like a cardstock cover.
Polybag cover, yeah.
Polybag, like cardstock, like a thicker cover, like a different paper stock and stuff too.
Oh no,
just the extra pages. I wonder how they're going to collect that.
Quarter a page,
if they were to do a cardstock, you'd be double price, not just an extra $1.
Yeah.
I hate to reference Kevin Smith, but he made fun of this idea of interior variants like 15 years ago in the Clerks comic book.
Yeah,
and like as being a really stupid idea, and now here we are. This is like when you're watching 30 Rock and they're doing MILF Island, and you're like, that's so stupid, that could never happen. And then here we are, fast forward, and we got MILF Manor or whatever it is on television. This is just the stupidity that somebody predicts. Every episode of South Park where they look at a social issue and they go, "Here's the most ridiculous place it could go." And then when you watch that episode 3 years later, you go, "Oh yeah, we're there now. That's right."
Yeah. When reality becomes parody. You've reached Poe's law, and you're just not sure. At that point, it just becomes stupid, and I think a lot of people just kind of tune out, and I think that's where we're at. I mean, I had heard that I haven't done a side-to-side comparison because I refuse to give them money to support the existence of interior variants to do a side-by-side comparison, but I had heard that it was going to be extra bloody on the normal pages too. I don't know if that's the case, but because I haven't done a side to side.
No idea. Pretty crazy. Now, David, would you want to be the EIC in charge of a 60-issue event that happens in three months? It's got to be a huge undertaking.
I already have done that.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. It's a lot of work.
But I can guarantee that you did the work, whereas I don't think that anybody at Marvel does the work.
I mean, when we did you guys probably hated it, but we did the Revolution, which crossed Transformers with G.I. Joe. We brought in Mask. We brought in
GoBots,
Micronauts. We brought in no, GoBots wasn't part of that. GoBots was later.
Okay.
I could have made that work, David. You could have made that work.
Hey, you know what? I fully submit, and maybe you guys hated it. The GoBots book that we did with Tom Scaly is one of my favorite things of all time. That was a meditation on humanity and AI and the upcoming AI. I thought it was Eisner Award worthy. And Tom Scaly, I don't know if you guys like him, but I love his work, and I thought it was the most thoughtful thing I've ever seen anybody do with a licensed property. Anyway, that was a lot of work, and that reunion thing, and that was probably at least 60 issues when it was all said and done. Some of it was like broken out, just like we were trying to introduce, mask, basically, as an example. But
can I reiterate what the mistake with mask was?
I
can tell you why. I can tell you why it didn't work.
Tell me why. I'd love to know.
Mask didn't work because Mask had no new media that was presenting it the way that you guys were.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that Matt Tracker was black, my first assumption was, oh shit, something happened to Matt Tracker and Hondo McClane has like stepped up and is leading the team. And I was like, and they're going to do like a mystery of who, what happened to Matt and why Hondo's in this position. And that got me intrigued. And then when I found out,
we did kick that around, but no, that was several conversations with Hasbro, and Hasbro did have some plans and ideas, and then they never showed up. So I think part of it was because just things change.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you're dealing with, of course, we both know when you're dealing with companies, it's really tough to. Sometimes good product escapes more than it is designed.
Yeah, that was a good idea. We kicked that around. In retrospect, maybe we should have leaned into that, but we did actually kick that around a little bit
because it has to feel like the mask. You're only getting old school fans, and if they're excited, about it, then you can bring in some new people. It's kind of the reason that I saw it that way. Like I think that way would have worked if they would let you do it.
We weren't sure that there was even enough old school fans. Like, I think that was another thing that we were like, is there anybody, like, for you to be a fan of Mask, you had to be born on a very specific day, basically, right? And there was like a window of like maybe 12 months where Mask could have been your thing, right? Like maybe 24 months. So we were like, are there even fans of Mask out there? We weren't even sure. So we wanted to, like, the idea was, let's do something new. Let's do something fresh. Let's take this concept, which is really cool, right? Like, you put on these helmets and then you're driving these badass vehicles around. And let's just lean into those visuals and see what we can do. Let's definitely pay deference to the fans as much as we can. Like, I loved Masks. It was a little outside of my my wheelhouse, but I think that's true for a lot of people. Yeah, so we did what we did. There's
it's like doing sectors, right? Like, it's a really limited window of like.
I was wondering
stores.
when Cher and Eric Stoltz were going to show up. Is what I was when I
Rocky Dennis action.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for.
Rocky Dennis is in the fire truck.
I just love the idea of Jim looking at the solicitations and going, well, that's a strange addition to the Transformers universe. Let me see how this works out.
Bring a little heart.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember Mask as a kid, but I always liked G.I. Joe and Transformers much better, and Thundercats and He-Man, of course.
See, I was always making
and all those properties had much bigger windows of opportunity, right? Like G.I. Joe was around for several years. That cartoon was really well received. The toys were like, through the roof. Same with Transformers. And Thundercats and He-Man. And so those things have much bigger opportunities. Mask was a pretty small opportunity right from the go. We knew it, but we just wanted to do a cool mascot.
And I was always pitching David even more obscure properties. I'm like, let me do Inhumanoids versus Transformers. Let me do cops fighting crime in a future time.
You're not giving up on that one, are you, Aaron? You
really I've never given up on cops, man. I love cops.
Bart Sears did a cover for me for the Super KAIJU book.
Oh, nice.
And speaking of cops, he did all the design. He did all the designs for that show, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can tell just by everybody's got like a square jaw, and like every dude is just like jacked.
Did anyone else read the other Blood Hunts here? There was another Blood Hunt tie-in called Moon Knight, or Vengeance of the Moon Knight, whatever that issue number was. Jim and I read it. It was weird. It appears, Jim, that the only reason that they made or killed the Moon Knight off to make the Shroud the Moon Knight was so that he could blow up and block out the sun.
Yeah, that he could be one of the portals. That's where I'm saying the idea where we're giving Marvel too much credit about the blades. They're just doing the craziest things of this is a tie-in, this is the setup, and they're kind of lame. I saw somebody, I wish I remember who said it. They're right. It's the Vengeance of the Moon Knight was kind of a one-page prelude is all it ended up being. In the meantime, the main issue is 8-Ball, doing therapy. And if that's your thing, that's fine. it's what that series has become since it became a number one. But like you said, now at this point, you're like, did you kill off Moon Knight just to get the Shroud for this one moment to get him in and it's really not a big moment. I mean, these guys end up where the Dark Force boom covered the earth. Done. I mean,
I didn't realize I was supposed to read it before Blood Hunt, so I'd already read it, and it already says Shroud did that.
Yes, somebody
like,
did tell me, like, oh my God, because I think that I'd said something. Oh man, the number one issue. They're like, it's actually the second, actually third. They even have the free comic book day. So I actually read it first, and I'm like, why did I do that? Even though I was going to read it anyway, but it didn't do anything, and just kind of, it actually got me in that mood of, all right, this is kind of going to be lame, and went into it, and it did kind of, set it back a little. Again, though, they're kind of on the same meh level throughout. So
the thing that kind of bothered me about the whole Shroud thing, it didn't bother me, but I thought, man, that's interesting, and maybe that's just how Marvel did it. But I think one of the best pitches for a comic book ever, regardless whether you like it or not, is the pitch for 30 Days a Night, which is for 30, you're in Alaska and the sun goes down for 30 days and vampires get loose. Like, what a great concept, right? Like, oh man, that's so sweet. And it's like, what is the Marvel version of that is what we got, right? Where, Shroud basically covers it. And I was like, oh man, isn't there something else that I don't know what the, I don't know how you marry those two.
In King in Black, we had all this showed up, and they blacked out.
That's right, and they blacked out.
That was like 4 years ago,
and it never has really any sort of effect. Besides, in this, it'll be dark, and that's what you get.
I almost wish there was a more natural version of it.
Yeah,
it's like a natural occurring eclipse, and the coven or whatever they're called, it like just timed it so that this is when they. I don't know. I guess you have to have.
Actually, you say that.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that could be cool, right? I don't know. Maybe I just feel like there's a more.
Well, you're saying that is a cool idea, because then it would show you that the Blood Coven is something bigger that they've been waiting,
they've been strategizing and waiting.
There's something about that that felt like a miss.
Sense. Yeah.
Something about that felt like a miss.
They could have went Marvel Scott Snyder on it, and that they've been thinking about it for 10,000 years, and it was written in the stars, and always destined to be.
No, stop. Oh man.
But I'll read the mainline Blood Hunt series, because it's fine for what it is. But I don't think, Jim, that I'm going to be jumping on tie-ins that I wasn't reading to begin with.
I'm probably going to read all of it, and I just love the idea that
God bless you.
Well, and it's the thing. Lately, the scariest months of the year have been, June, July, August. We had Summerween last year with the whole night terrors with the K. Yes. So I'm in. This is my scary time of year.
It
is kind of weird. Everything's a horror event lately.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on reading this one because I'm just not a big horror guy. But after reading the first issue, and I like Pepe Larraz, and I think he's kind of like, I'm kind of eager to see what he does with this series. So I actually think I'm in it, whereas I wasn't before. Like, if you hadn't given me that book to read, I probably wasn't going to pick it up. But I'm in. I do think though that making the best version, the more expensive version that you can't really get, is a weird choice like that. I don't know what to do with that. So I might be back out because if I don't know which version to buy, then like, which version am I supposed to buy? Which one is important here, guys? I don't know.
That's always a good way. That's a good point, David. That's a good way to sabotage yourself right out of the gate. Like, one of the reasons I remember when Gentle Giant announced they were going to do like these 12-inch reproductions of the original Star Wars figures, so you could get like a 12-inch version of the figure you had as a kid, and they were going to be on the card and everything, and people were like, oh man, I'm excited about that. And then the first thing they did was make Boba Fett, perhaps one of the most desirable characters, a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, and a bunch of people couldn't get it and went, well, then I'm out on the line because I can't get everything.
I can't get a full collection. Nah. Boba Fett's such a good design. Whoever designed that deserves a really big bonus still.
Yeah.
They made Lucasfilm a lot of money.
In the original white too, and when it was supposed to be just a bunch of super stormtroopers. Pretty damn cool.
We do have some people speaking. Let's hear about these super chats. Calv says, did Mark Hamill do blow with Hunter before that speech?
Possibly. If he did, he didn't. He didn't pay for it, because we've all seen the pictures of him like picking cigarette butts out of the ashtrays outside of studios, so he can get his nicotine fix.
I'm assuming this is the Joby Wan Kenobi or whatever.
Yeah, he was at the White House.
Next up, he says the only events comics have now are Who's Gay, Pride Month, and CB's picture of a sandwich. That's it. Marvel events haven't been good for a long time, but this one
Events
seems
haven't
cool.
been good. I mean,
what was the last good event?
I think it's King in
Marvel.
Black, maybe, or
See, I didn't
is
like King in
Devil's
Black.
Reign good? That's the question.
It's okay.
No. Yeah.
I think maybe the last event that I was in for and I bought every issue of was Original Sin, maybe.
That's a
And
long
even
time ago,
that-
Aaron.
Yeah.
Even that was kind of stupid. It was just a way to bring
It was a way to get rid of the real Nick Fury.
and to bring the Exterminatrix into the regular Marvel universe instead of and Marvel Boy, essentially from Morrison's little pocket universe from when he did that book 20 years ago to the main Marvel universe.
Yeah, that's about it.
Very nice. Federico de la Casa Pepe de Raz made the Med writing splendid, like the reference for Who Cares, the MU Montesi Formula Dark Force, but this week the real gem is still X-Men 97.
agreed. I like Pepe Larraz, but I felt like I don't know. I didn't feel like he was on his best here. That's
It was too dark and there was too much stuff happening, so it was
Yeah.
happening in really tiny panels and you couldn't even tell
Yeah.
which characters were doing what.
This
Well,
is
that was
like
a big one.
this series, that first issue at least was like David Goyer's favorite comic book in history. Because you can't see anything that's fucking happening.
Yeah.
Steven
But I
Wonder.
think Pepe did the best that he could. You know, there were a couple of moments that were supposed to look cool. You know, I think the Thor spear thing looked pretty decent, even though you just go right on with your life.
Yeah,
You get one good thing of it.
Everything switched to the next scene too quick, and it just
Yeah.
didn't have the substance. It didn't have you just couldn't sit there and soak it in, like Josh said
Yeah.
earlier. It really didn't have a lot of soul to it. It ended up just kind of being there, and at the end, you just thought, okay, this is the event, and it's kind of like Event 101 book, and it just didn't feel right.
So was there a new issue of X-Men 97 or is he talking about the show?
he's talking about
I
the
don't
show. The
Okay.
show
Yeah,
is still like firing on all cylinders. Like it's actually really freaking
well, there's a
good.
comic book out there for you, Josh, called X-Men
Yeah,
97 with Steve Fox.
It's not that great.
It's pretty average.
Yeah.
Marvel, it stands out as not bad, especially in the X-Men line.
Right.
You go
Especially
read
from
Invincible
Steve
Iron
Fox.
Man and get to X-Men 97, you're like, huh, that's pretty good.
It's especially compared to everything else Steve Fox has ever written.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
definitely the best
yeah.
book that I think he's ever done.
So what is
Like-
what are the? I apologize. I don't listen to you guys. Do you guys? What is the
At all, ever. Right now, even.
I get the
Thank
cliff
you,
notes
Dave.
from Aaron. What is the thing that's like got you guys like super excited? Like this is the thing that's
Energon, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Transform Energon.
There's actually a lot of indie books right now that are
Dick
really
Tracy.
Dick Tracy.
Dick.
Uh-huh.
I really
Space
wanted
Ghost.
to do. I really
First
wanted to
issue
do
of
that book
Space
at IDW. That Dick Tracy book.
Did you come
Yeah.
close?
Conan is excellent.
Conan is excellent.
Yeah, Conan's
absolutely.
good.
And there's a ton of indie stuff right now that's got a lot of potential. We'll just have to see how it unfolds.
Is Luis De La Rosa the perfect Conan artist? Is that possible? Like the guy?
He
No,
is.
not Luis De La Rosa. No, what's his name? I'm
Roberto
sorry.
De La Torre.
Roberto Del.
Roberto De La Torre. Is he the perfect Conan comic?
He's
book?
number 2 underneath
Barry Windsor
guy that-
Smith.
Yeah,
yes, Barry
yeah.
Windsor Smith. Yes.
Like, this
pretty
guy
good,
is-
though.
Like
Number
the
one.
guy is so good. Oh,
But he's
Yeah.
right there, like barely underneath him.
oh, I love
But
his stuff. It's like
It is
yeah,
up doing some
beautiful
cool stuff. You're going back to the Thurian Age and getting Call and Conan in the same story, and I guess it's going to all culminate with like all the Robert E. Howard characters being in one book from all the different time periods. But we have to get there.
I wouldn't say no
Um,
to more Ron Garney on Conan either. I really loved his art on that. On
That
Marvel.
Savage Sword of Conan was great.
Yeah.
Shockingly done by Jerry Duggan.
Ultimate Spider-Man. I heard that's Marco Cicchetto, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's solid.
Well, when he's there,
This last issue. Well, yeah.
He was a villain artist.
you have a fill-in artist on issues 4 and 5.
But the issue 4 was a date night. There was no action in it. I don't waste Chichetto on stuff like that.
No, that's fair.
What else? I didn't. There was a couple other ones thrown out there. What was some of the indie stuff?
I said Space Ghost was good this week.
Says
Oh,
you.
that's-
I
Jim
hated it.
Is a
I
denier.
fucking hated it. I thought that was one of the worst first issues I've ever read in my life.
Really?
Terrible.
Wow.
Terrible. Every bit of setup was through exposition of, hey there, Jace, you know the engineering of computers, and Jen with the guns. And I'm like, you don't even get any idea of what's going on in that book.
I suppose
You're all
that's fair.
fools, is what you're
I su-
saying.
I suppose that's fair. I can't disagree with you on that, Jim. I just
It was okay. I
The
love
art's really good.
I
The
love
art's
the art.
good.
The art
Uh-huh.
was great. I think that it was just so weak in the script, but I think that it could get better as it goes on.
I'm judging it
Yep.
on, you know what? I am judging it on the curve of Dynamite because I've always said that Dynamite doesn't care. It's everything is
Yeah,
just a vehicle
yeah,
to throw a
yeah.
bunch of covers on, and they don't care about the interiors. So the fact that like having read a bunch of Dynamite stuff recently, including Darkwing Duck, reading a comic book that seemed like there was some love put into it.
Oh,
It
I
seemed
think there
like such
was. And I
yeah.
think that I think he knows the characters and knows the deal. I just don't trust him in writing. I don't think he's
Who?
a very good writer. David Pepose. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that he's just- it'll fall apart pretty quickly.
I mean,
The stuff that came out of what is
The
it?
toilet?
Ghost Machine. That Rook
Oh, yeah,
Rook
Rook.
Exodus was really cool. I think Geiger is still fine. We'll see where Redcoat goes, but I've liked those as well.
Yeah, those are good.
Jason Fabok on that Rook one was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And we
I think
mentioned
Green Lantern
Sa-
is good right now too.
we mentioned Sacrificers earlier. The GI Joe stuff right now. I know we mentioned Energon, but it's a lot of fun. Transformers has been fun. There's a book called Infernals that I think is incredibly
really
well
good.
written.
Yeah, it's really good.
I think people might have issues with the subject matter because you're following like Satan's family, but they're not made out to be good characters.
No.
But God, the writing is just great in that.
Yeah, and coming up like Flash Gordon is coming up.
Oh, I was gonna say Farrell,
from
Tony
Jeremy
Fleets.
Adams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Farrell's
that's
been
really good.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Farrell's good.
Yeah, that's good.
And Uncanny Valley just launched. Was it last week? I think
It's really good too.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. There's
Yeah.
another book called Dawn Runner. If you like Pacific Rim and don't think it ever
Yes.
met its potential,
It's Ram V.
it's really good. I was shocked.
I think Graham V's superpower is that he can find the best artists to work with. I really do think that Graham V's, like as a writer, has probably some of the best eye for talent that I've ever seen. That guy always. I don't know if he's finding the artist and then writing the project for the artist, or if he's just writing the project and then going out and finding the perfect guy for it. But either way, man, I feel like every time he pairs whoever he's paired with, every time it's like the right artist for what he's trying to do. Like there's exceptions, but for the rule, like that guy's got an eye.
He also has the superpower of putting me to sleep most of the time. That's just me. He gets a little wordy.
especially on the superhero books.
Yeah. Oh,
He might
his
get-
indie
I
stuff
haven't-
is a million times better than.
I honestly haven't. Is he on Detective Comics right now?
Yeah,
I haven't read any of his Detective Comics stuff, but I'm going to.
I wouldn't suggest it, but it
Well,
starts
it's
out
a long
fine. It's
road.
just- we're in the same story arc from the very first issue, and it's been 2 years.
Right now, I could start One Piece and finish that before I end up finishing his run on Detective.
Well, you guys can't have you guys can't have it both ways here. Now, come
I
on,
know.
you're sitting here talking about how everything's moving too quickly and there's like too much action happening on every single
You
page.
got to get the middle.
and
though.
there's no chance for you to like sit
That is true.
and sink into anything. And then here's Ram V over here. You're telling me that he's doing the same thing. He's
That
really
is true.
sinking into a storyline, and you're
It's
like,
like
it's
you're-
moving too
here's-
slow.
Here's the
thing.
Thinking.
But
Here's the
if-
thing.
if you're gonna have 24 plus issues into a story, there needs to be some type of
There's
progression.
no payoff or progression.
Yeah.
The problem. It has its thing, and I think that he's more of a feels guy, or instead of being a story guy, he's more of an atmosphere type thing. And it's just when you get longer runs, you start to realize that nothing is really happening. But
So if you
Yeah,
read
well,
House
you
of
know-
Brainiac Chapter 1, which is the mini Superman event going on DC, There are similar elements to that to what Blood Hunt #1 does. The big difference is Josh Williamson had actually introduced 4 or 5 of these concepts that were going to blow up in this issue over the last 6 months. So he's not like wasting time introducing characters and stuff. You just kind of get in there, but you've already experienced all this stuff and it feels important. So while it's very similar, he did all like the homework leading into it. And I do think that stuff matters, the execution.
Yeah, Gary Redmond made a good comment that his Rams Detective Run is definitely made for the trade and reads much better, and I can agree with that. But I still something needs to happen. And I love Ram V. Like I thought his Catwoman run was freaking excellent.
Very good.
That was pretty good.
These Savage Shores, Dawn Runner.
I was
all
about
good
to say,
stuff.
yeah.
His Layla Star though is really good, and his stuff, his indie stuff is really good when he doesn't have to do I think that when he gets on these regular, characters of all these years, he thinks he really has to show you how smart he is to change things around or kind of do that with his own characters. He's really, really good.
So you guys are that's the second time I've heard Layla Star recently. That
It's really good.
Coming up in conversation.
It's really good.
It's really good. Yeah.
I think
check that
it
one
topped a lot of best of lists for, was it 2022 or 2023?
I think around there, 2022.
2022, yeah.
And Dawn Runner is his new one.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 1 or 2 issues in.
Is it,
Yeah.
That's over at Boom? Is that over at Boom?
It's a Dark Horse, I believe.
Dark Horse?
Yeah, Dark Horse. Yep.
Next up, Lane says, I think unlike Blood Hunt, at least we've been building to absolute power through Night Terrors, Beast World, etc. There feels like some direction for it. They've certainly been building up to absolute power. We've already had Batman as R&R in Batman for like almost 2 years now.
Mhm.
We're about to get the Brainiac Queen introduced. We just saw her for the first time in House of Brainiac special this week. And they certainly have been building up Amanda Waller for like 18 months, maybe longer than that, Jim.
Yeah, and Night Terrors. I mean, Amanda Waller kind of sat there and said, "Oh, that's neat. I could use that." But really, that has kind of fallen to the wayside. Not many people are talking about the idea of I had nightmares that one night and I hate the Justice League. But it was that same concept. But it has been building up. And a lot of people, again, like David was saying of us, the idea of saying one thing but wanting another and whatnot. A lot of people have been saying that Amanda Waller has been too much on the upfront. And oh my God, why are they doing this? And I keep saying it's the setup for the big event. And a lot of the times the big two don't set things up enough going towards an event like a Blood Hunt, but they are doing it with Amanda Waller. The kind of in between is that you don't want people to be sick and tired of the villain to the point when you get to the event that you're like, I don't want any more Amanda Waller, but it has been setting up.
Well, and yeah, it's not even just this story though. If you look back, they've been trying to set up Amanda Waller ever since they launched Rebirth.
Mhm.
And they've been trying, and every
There's
attempt
been
that
a
they've
lot
had,
of
they haven't.
resets, right?
Yeah, they haven't fully gone for it, and then they reset and they tried again, don't fully go for it and reset. Like that's adding to this is just too much.
Yeah, and even at the end of Death Metal, you ended up setting up the idea that it was going to go Infinite Frontier was the idea that everybody was sick of the heroes. They always end up being on top. When there's a reset, they're the ones who don't get affected. And that kind of got pushed aside to then become now the idea that the heroes aren't as good and we want to hate them. And it has recycled some of these things, kind of weird. But yeah, there's some of the concepts people might be getting sick of.
All right, Doc. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
All right.
I feel like I think the Waller thing, though, I think it stretches way back even before Rebirth. I remember, God, it would have been probably New 52 is, I think, where they really started pushing Amanda Waller.
Remember when she was thin then? Everybody got a
Yeah, well, they made her thin. They
and part of Team 7.
Yeah,
Yes.
Team 7.
Yeah, that was abysmal. But no, the Waller thing's been long standing where they've tried to make her a thing.
Yeah.
Next up, Nerd says, are there any current era writers who know how to write horror events with no Halloween iconography like zombies, vampires, etc. has been done? There's certainly one that jumps right to my mind. That would be Cullen Bunn, who did a little event over at Valiant when they were kind of struggling with Shadow Man. That was a lot of fun. I know Jim liked that one as well. Scott Snyder does a lot of horror type tropey stuff in his events, and you don't see zombies and vampires. You just see mutated versions of heroes for the most part.
Yeah, I would say Phantom Road, kind of, to a degree. It's Phantom Road. You've got those creatures, but you don't really know what they are. But there's definitely a suspense kind of horror element to that.
Jim, where are you? You're the big horror guy. You love the Cola Bud.
The Cullen Bun, I do like that. I'm sitting here trying to think of a lot of different events that wouldn't have those, Halloween deal, and there isn't many because they usually go with the zombies and the vampires.
Oh, yeah, Deceased to Zombies, Marvel versus Zombies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
DC
sitting
vampires,
here just trying to
Bloodhunt.
think that there isn't many that I can think of that wouldn't have those in some sort
I
of
can't
way.
wait till we get the DC versus Mummies.
Yeah, the
That's gonna be a
slowest
good one.
moving deal. They're just, they're just mummies. That'd be awesome.
If it's the Brendan Fraser mummy, I'm in.
Well, even the Ram V Run that we're talking about, like in Detective, that has the Wolfmen in it. You had that for a bit, and
True.
the Asthma ends up being
Werewolves.
Wolfmen and werewolves and stuff like that. But overall, yeah, they usually go with those iconic things because it's easy to set up and get going.
You know what was really good was James Tynan's Upside Down Man thing.
Yeah,
In-
that started
I
off
like
great
this-
for Justice League
I
Dark.
like the
Just in
sweatpants
dark.
that he wore, and he kind of hung. Now the thing is, though, that has the Upside Down Man. He needs a new manager or something because he was in that Outsiders book where he's just hanging in a bar with a bunch of other smacked asses. It's like, you're bigger than this, Upside Down Man, but I guess he isn't. He's just
No
hanging
one's
out.
reading Outsiders by Colin Kelly.
Exactly. That's why he needs a bunch of smacked asses. He's just sitting
Yeah,
there.
he needs
So,
to get on Green Lantern or something. Somebody's reading.
yeah, something.
Grateful Dog says, David, Conan, Usagi, Yojimbo, Nottingham, G.I. Joe, Real American Hero are my picks. Nottingham is absolutely awesome. David
Yep.
is on that one. And then obviously G.I. Joe, Real American Hero has really picked up steam with Larry Hama just continuing on the run over at Skybound. But then they brought in Chris Mooneyham as the artist, and now they've got a new artist coming up. But it's really, really good. If you like Real American Hero, it's a great time to jump on board.
So Paul Pelletier is I think he's going to be filling in,
Yes,
right?
I believe you're correct. Yes.
Yeah. I only know that because he keeps sending me pages and they're awesome.
You're very, really lucky.
They are incredible. And yeah, I'm reading Raw as well. I really like it.
It's
Those
funny
are all,
because
those are all
wouldn't have-
amazing picks. Grateful Dog. I like all those books.
I wouldn't have chosen, like if you said to me, like, who would be a really great fill-in artist or even a great artist on G.I. Joe, I wouldn't have, like, Paul Pelletier wouldn't have come into my mind, but then you say it and I'm like, oh yeah,
Paul-
no, that could be really good.
Paul hates drawing like tech and military tech, and he's incredibly good at it.
Curse.
He did a 6-issue series for me for another company, a startup AAA video game company, and the whole book is got a lot of like military like tech in it, and the whole time he's just like, man, I hate drawing this stuff. I hate drawing this stuff, and like, every page was like better than the last one. I'm like, you hate it, but you're so good at it.
I've always told artists, like, when they're like, oh, I don't want to draw all this military tech stuff. I've actually told people, he did some Penguin stuff for us back in the day at Ape. I always said, well, I could bring in Alan Gladfelter and he can do all the tech stuff because he loves it. Like, he'll do all the tech stuff for you, just like pencil it out, and then you could just ink it if you want to do that.
What was that guy's name back in the day? Brown, the artist. What was his name? What was his first name? Brown?
Elliot Brown.
Yeah, Elliot Brown, like the Elliot Brown of 2024.
Yeah, he would just do like, hey, here's the Punisher's arsenal, because he'd be like, you need him to draw an M16. He's going to do it, and it's going to be picture perfect.
Oh.
I've been loving the speeches by Cobra Commander to the citizens of Springfield. Trying to calm them down after he's created this mutant island with the mutant bomb and Serpentor Khan and everything. He just comes off as completely a sniveling, conniving piece of crap, Aaron, and that's what Cobra Commander should be.
Yeah.
Well, Cobra Commander in Larry Hama's hands is not sniveling. He's actually really cunning and really smart. He's always like kind of the antithesis of the show. So on the show, you got
The
like kind of the
cartoon.
Chris Latta, or the cartoon, yeah, the Chris Latta kind of Starscream, Weasley character. And then, with Larry Hama, like, I always still imagined it in Chris Latta's voice, but it's such a different take on the character. And when you watch G.I. Joe Resolute, which was written by Warren Ellis, the Cobra Commander voice is as close to Chris Latta as they could get, but it's just a little bit lower and a little bit darker. And like in the first episode, he's got this line about like, I was content to play the fool, but now, this is the real me. And it's kind of like, oh wow, like they shifted him into comic book Cobra Commander. That was a neat series.
Yeah, definitely been enjoying that one. Great picks there. We also had something that came out, and I'm sure that certain being in the comic book industry behind the scenes, David, that you've seen these kind of trends happening to where there was a lot of steam happening behind Scholastic and graphic novels, YA graphic novels in bookstores. And then we saw manga really picking up steam, and they were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this has been quite apparent that all the new interest, or most of the new interest in comic books in America, weren't translating to increases in interest in anything really in the direct market. So while they were saying, yeah, the American comic book industry has more sales than it's ever had, it wasn't really affecting your DC, your Marvel, your IDWs, and companies like that. Is this a trend that you've been seeing for a long time?
Just the move away from what trend are you talking about?
That there was an increased readership and more dollars coming into comic books, but they were being diverted into bookstores to Scholastic and Manga and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but those readers weren't converting over to your superhero comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I mean, superheroes in particular have a very limited opportunity when you're talking like mass market, right? There's only a certain. That's changed a little bit because Marvel movies over the last 20 years have been huge, right? So that opportunity is bigger than it ever has been. But people want to read books about cooking. Like that's a thing that more people want to read about than people want to read about superheroes. So if you've got a manga that's about cooking, that's also got some fun character interaction and maybe a little, adventure on top of it, more people are going to gravitate to that. More people understand that. More people are just interested in that. Then you are going to find people interested in Doctor Strange getting shivved through the heart. So I think that the opportunity for the direct market is to just lean into that stuff, right? Lean into other types of storytelling, find other products that are telling the types of stories that will appeal to a broader audience. I think that superhero comic books have their place for sure, but I think that there's a reason manga's eating Marvel, like Viz and Tokyo Pop are eating Marvel and DC's lunches because Marvel and DC aren't actively trying to tell other types of stories. They're trying to tell Blood Hunt again, right?
Oh.
So
I wanted to ask, as a publisher, when you have you talk about Marvel and DC not really changing their product, what kind of risk do you feel when you have an audience? You have your existing audience. It might be small, might be large, it might be enormous, it might be almost infinitesimal. When you try to change your product, don't you feel like it's a massive risk to try to target that new audience? Because in the process, you are telling the existing audience, we're not giving you the thing you want anymore. We're giving it what this bigger group wants. And then when they leave, isn't that a major risk?
Yeah, but I think you can. I think there's plenty of ways to have your cake and eat it too, right? Like, I mean, you guys probably didn't read the YA Catwoman graphic novel, right?
No.
Nobody.
Yes, but I was being paid to. But I'm going to jump in here because I understand what you're saying. I think I agree with you to a extent about food is going to be more universal to people. However, I think what we're seeing is Marvel and DC have tried to go different, and they have tried to change at the expense of not doing what they're known for. And I think no matter what happens, a hero's journey is always going to be relevant, and it's going to resonate with people if you tell the story. But our the big two have gotten away from telling a hero's journey. They don't our heroes don't really seem like heroes anymore. And we're getting multiple issues now of two characters just sitting around eating cake, talking about food. That's not what people come here for. And I'll also even add, I'll add one more thing. I think it's also a little disingenuous to say superheroes in an atmosphere isn't popular when you look at things like the best-selling book series of all time is Harry Potter. Like, that's a superhero to a degree. You know, it's just
you have to do some mental gymnastics before Harry Potter is a superhero.
It's Doctor Strange.
How is that not a superhero? It's a guy with
It's
magic
magic.
that's fighting a bad guy. Yeah, but what's Scarlet Witch?
I see the leap you're making, Josh. I can.
You can even look at
Yeah,
like Buffy and Angel. You know, it's all.
I
that
think.
same
Well,
thing.
I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, hey, let's take these superheroes and put them into these other situations. And what I'm saying is, let's take these other situations and maybe give them a couple pieces of superpower, right, or a little bit of superhero, a hero's journey type story instead. See how those two things are different, though? Like, one is coming from like, hey, I really need to make Spider-Man a thing, right? And I'm going to make him a cooking show, Spider-Man doing a cooking show. And that's going to get all the kids excited about Spider-Man. And then we're going to put them in and then we're going to put them in have them all reading the regular Spider-Man series. But that's not real. Like, if I go and watch the Spider-Man movie, the next thing that I want to do is not read a Spider-Man comic. The next thing I want to do is watch another Spider-Man TV show, or watch the Doctor Strange movie, or any of the other 150,000 hours worth of superhero movies and TV shows we have now, right? So instead, like, let's go, hey, let's just do something. Let's try other things. Essentially, let's try other modes of storytelling. Let's try other types of stories and see how they do, period. Take the talent, right, behind the superhero comic craft that we've got and apply it to other things. And basically just manga. Like, manga's like got that figured out, I think. I know that in the United States, we're just kind of cherry picking. We're like getting like the best stuff, right? Like, and that stuff is being produced at a volume that we're probably not going to run out anytime soon of the really good highest quality stuff. But I mean, I like the idea around that. I like the idea around looking outside the box a little bit in terms of what the direction we're going.
Because I think there's plenty of evidence that when you talk about mainstream and what makes money, superheroes are bigger than movies when it comes to storytelling. I think Chef is a great movie. The worldwide box office, I don't think it was nearly as big as The Marvels, which is a superhero movie that wasn't very good. You know, I think the appeal of the hero's journey is essentially universal, and the appeal of the chef's journey, I guess you could consider him a hero in his own right. It's more of a coming of age, bonding with his son type of story, is something else altogether. And I do think the media that was around comic books or the journalists or whatever, conflating the success of manga and Scholastic and saying, well, that means that there's nothing happening in the direct market, it's perfectly fine, well, was untruthful at the time. And we can learn from manga. And I think one of the things that's really appealing about manga is the fact if you watch season 1 of One Piece, the actual anime, and you're like, I wish the story was going on, but the season's over, you can go to the manga and it picks like right up because they're really faithful adaptations. And I do think the two mediums work in synergy with each other, one leading into the other. Whereas with American comic books, especially your superheroes, that's not really the same thing. You know, if you watch Endgame and then you go read Infinity Gauntlet, there's certainly some similarities there. And if you're a comic book fan, you kind of like it or whatever. But if you came from the movie to that, you would be like, what is this? It's not the
nothing
same
the same.
That's
Not
why
even
Superman
close.
versus Messi is so good. Right?
Superman versus Meatballs. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Superman trying out different bowls of ramen every week.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome.
I think what David might be referring to is how DC had Primer come out, which is a YA book, but it was them doing something different, and it's been hugely successful for them. So I'm assuming that's kind of what you're referring to. I don't know if you're familiar with Primer.
I just know that is that what their YA line was called, Primer?
They had
the character.
They had a book called Primer, and she's just like a kid that's an artist that kind of
original character for YA graphic novel.
Oh, okay.
Line.
No, I just know that a couple of years back that they had a pretty decent push into the YA graphic novel space, and I think some of it worked and some of it didn't, and but I think the concern there when I was looking at it as on its face is kind of what I was saying. It's like, hey, if I just read Smile, right? My thought, the thought in my head is, hey, you know what I want to read? I want to read a really good Catwoman comic book. Like that's not what you're looking for.
Beast
You're
Boy
looking
Loves
for,
Raven?
hey, you know what I want? I want another story in this genre, in this space, right? If it happens to be a young Selena Kyle, okay, who cares? Just give me that type of story. And I think that's the disconnect. Like at DC, is like DC thinks, oh, everybody wants Catwoman, so we're just going to give the young kids, their version of Catwoman. But it's like, no, they don't really want Catwoman. They want Smile. They want more of they just want that style of storytelling. So there, that's where I think, and it's not like there's one solution to it. I think you just have to try a lot of different avenues. And
my question, it kind of brings me back to my original question. Aren't you then trying to bend characters to fit a story type?
Right, and I don't think you should. I think what you should do is just do something completely lean into.
Yeah.
I think, look, for me, the industry, I don't follow characters. I follow talent. I'm all about, hey, who is the
hot like at the strip club?
Yeah, like I don't care who. I don't really care that much about Batman, but I do care about Kelly Jones's Batman, right? Like when Kelly Jones is drawing Batman, I stand up, pay attention, and I go buy that book. But if Batman's just out there and it's some guy that I don't really, that I don't find appealing, that don't speak to me, then I'm not going to be reading Batman. And I think that's true of anything. Just like Kelly Jones just did a Dracula comic book or graphic novel on Kickstarter that did like $200,000, right? Of course it did, because that's really cool. Seeing Kelly Jones do something outside of the superhero genre, the horror, which is perfect for him, right? Like, yeah, sign me up. So I think it's more about just taking that talent and letting them stretch their muscles in different ways and trying new things outside of superheroes specifically. Like, stop trying to make Selena Kyle a thing for a 13-year-old. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I don't think that Marvel and DC ever should abandon their core line, right? And their core audience. They absolutely have to find ways to bring in fresh readers, because otherwise it's not going to go well for them. And that means trying new things and breaking characters and reimagining them from time to time. But that doesn't have to mean that they're abandoning their existing audience they have.
Now, and I guess this then brings the next question. So I like the idea that you're proposing, though. The question is, how do you do that as a publisher? I mean, this, at least for Marvel and DC, they're public.
DC kind of had it when they had Vertigo.
Well, yeah, but for the most part, yeah, when it was Vertigo, with what they're being owned by these yes, but in this day and age, with all the alternative media and everything else that's out there, Marvel and DC being owned by these big multinational corporations. If you were talking about Smile, people want to just read Smile, but they want to read, it from DC. How does DC do that when they're not going to they're not going to pay you? You're not going to maintain any ownership because fucking Warner Brothers wants to keep that shit if you come up with a Smile. So what incentive is there? I mean, you end up with like editorially designed characters that they refuse to accept when they don't get over.
Well, Primer did work, though. That was the best-selling YA graphic novel, and it was an original character. We got Primer 2 coming out, but there's only one character.
Yeah, you had one. Yeah. How many did they throw at the wall that didn't stick?
But in Primer 2, we are going to see the Teen Titans enter the fray. And it's like, why are you mixing?
Screwing
maybe it's the bridge.
Right.
In their minds.
Even in their main line.
But see, that's the thing. It's like, stop trying to create. Why stop trying to make Teen Titans? Like, maybe if Teen Titans Go, it works. And like, I don't know. But like,
it's that team, exactly, but they look like
the mentality is, okay, now let's get them hooked on superheroes. Like, no, just get them hooked on reading. Just make cool stuff. Let them read. And then people like us who like the superheroes will get our fix, right? And then maybe some of those people are going to eventually gravitate to superhero
Of course, that will
direct
definitely
market,
happen.
more like super. Yeah, that's definitely going to happen. Like I 100% know that Dogman has created new direct market superhero comic readers. There's no doubt in my mind that Dogman didn't do that. It absolutely did. There are people reading comic books. Now, are they going into a comic book store? Probably not. Are they reading it on their phone? 100% yes. Right.
Right.
Are they pirating it? 99% yes.
Well, I mean, that's I hate that, but I also, you have to make that, like Tokyo Pop and Viz and those guys, they're doing a very good business online, right? Like, because they're formatting the books so that you can read it on your phone, and they're value pricing that stuff so that it's easier and it's affordable for somebody to read something on their phone and pay for it, right? Like I have Netflix, right? And when Netflix was really humming, I had that one subscription. I had no thoughts of pirating because everything that I wanted was coming in Netflix, and I was paying what I thought was a great price. I'm good to go, right? So the pirating thing, it sucks, but we also, like as an industry, the publishers have to also make that material available in a way that's easy, that's in the way that they want people want to consume it.
Was for. I mean, it was.
Right. Yeah.
But we saw what happens. Amazon
Shonen Jump pants Comixology as far as affordability in the library.
I meant for the American market. That was our attempt.
You get Comixology Unlimited. It was like, I think it was $7 a month, and you got full access to the entire Valiant line, which is great because I like Valiant comics. But you get maybe 5 Batman trades. You get no new comic books. You get some stuff that you wouldn't want to read, and it was very limited. Whereas Shonen Jump is just
and even then,
I put in whatever you want.
It's being run by actual, like Shonen is actually being run by an actual publisher, not being run by some multinational that they outsourced it to that doesn't give a good flying fuck about comics. And it's not even around, like the entire Comixology division is probably not a rounding error on Amazon's,
They broke the app and did not care because they made no difference to them.
Just turned it into, then they absorbed it into Kindle. And they're just like, fuck it. We're not even giving you your own app. You got to use the one that we're going to fit your square peg into our round hole over here. And fuck you people.
So David, Doc and I get in arguments about this all the time, because I do look at the Japanese market, because that's the biggest comic book market in the world. People don't probably think it's North America. It's not. It's orders of magnitude bigger in Japan. And they literally use phones and tablets as the new spinner rack. You get in there, there's a cheap, abundant availability of the books, and you could read them, you're on the train or whatever. But America hasn't even attempted this yet, where you make a really awesome catalog that's really affordable, that allows you to go in and taste test and find out what you like. And then once you love something, what happens when you love something? You go all in on it. You get the T-shirts, you get the physical versions of them, then you get the absolute edition and all that kind of stuff. They need an entry point, and I do think digital is going to be key to that.
I agree. I mean, we've all got this incredibly powerful, thing in our pockets that can do. It's like magic, right? Like it can do anything. Why would I take the time to put this down and pick up something from print? Also, go to a store? Like what? I'm not going to leave my house. So I absolutely think we have to have modes of distribution that hit all the different markets and all the different ways that people want to consume something. And the phone is definitely by far the most popular, right? We're all on our phones consuming media all day long now. So let's make sure that we have comic books and graphic novels available to people easily so they can easily access it on their phone, and in a manner in which it's a pleasing reading experience. That's a tall order, right? Because for me in particular, as I've said a couple times just on this live stream, visuals are king. And so when I see a double page spread in a comic book, in a print comic book, I'm like, wow, like you turn the page and pow, right? You get this beautiful image. On a phone, oh man, that is not a good experience, right? Like a double page spread is actually smaller than if you had just done a single full page spread, right? And then you turn your phone and it's still not as good. So there's limitations to the way we're crafting some of this stuff too. that I think we have to overcome. But I agree 100% that we should be like, you need to be where people want to consume things. You have to be there. And right now, most people are consuming things using their phone. So we absolutely need to find ways to distribute through phones.
Now,
well, that's why Ape Entertainment did so well with Pocket God, is because it was available within the app. People were already playing Pocket God. And then, I can read the Pocket God comic here, and then they would go. It's like that's what it didn't sell well in the direct market because that's not the place where people wanted to consume it. The people that liked that thing. So I hate reading stuff on a phone. I don't really particularly enjoy comics on a tablet, but I don't think that it should be off the table because there are people that will consume it that way. And why would you ever cut yourself off from a stream?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It's not for me, right? But I'm not most people, I think, when it comes to that.
And I don't disagree with any of that. My contention with Wes on this topic isn't so much that it should be available and we have to have a digital strategy. I want to pinpoint why it's not working here. And at least to this point. And my contention, at least, is much more foundational. Japan, Asia, they have a cultural acceptance of comics and graphic storytelling as a common everyday. Everybody reads all kinds of stuff in that format that America doesn't have. We don't have that acceptance of that as a common. So the problem we're running into is you have people that aren't even looking for graphic sequential storytelling. Over there, it's just assumed that you're going to read in that format. Here, it's a medium that people they're not reading in for the most part. And that's why I've contended that you need to put this medium of graphic sequential storytelling in physical normie spaces. Because the internet, the one problem with the internet is you have to be searching for the thing you find. At this point, especially in a universe where everyone's running ad blockers, the only way to do it in the internet, like in a virtual space, is through pop-ups and fucking ads. And that just is more annoying to people. But a spinner rack or impulse buy type things, that's the advertising world, the clickbait of the real world. A spinner rack was the clickbait of the real world. We haven't been able to replicate that in a digital space to convert people that aren't even reading in the graphic sequential storytelling medium into reading it, regardless of what the genre is. That's my problem. It's like, how do we get people to even accept comic? I mean, okay, we do it when they're kids through like golden books, but are we going to count golden books as comics now? I don't know. I mean, picture books, are they comics now? I don't know. I guess it depends on if you're Heidi McDonald or not and you want to make an argument.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I who cares where they start? I agree that you have to have comic books and graphic novels available. Again, you have to be able to be where people are purchasing things, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, you're going to find a certain number of your audience from bookstores or magazine newsstands, if they even exist anymore, or places like that. I think it's really just hard to do. Mass distribution is just not a thing anymore, right? Like the direct market, for good or bad, really did help comic books in a lot of ways, because that non-returnability saved comic books, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, on the business side. So, yeah, I don't know. I agree that you have to be in those places. You have to be next to magazines. You have to be next to books with graphic novels and graphic storytelling, without a doubt. And I do agree that some people are going to find comic books that way. Some people are going to find their way to graphic novels that way. I don't think you're wrong. I think, but I think I don't think those things are mutually exclusive.
No, and I don't think they are either. I don't think
Yeah.
my question's a little more, I guess, I don't know, out there, a little bit more. I'm blanking on the word. Regardless, my question is, how do we replicate a impulse buy? Because your first comic is when your mom
in the digital space. How do we
how do we
the impulse buy?
replicate that?
No, I mean, just the way you do. I think that without getting into too much detail, I hate the way modern publishers market their materials. I think is the most ass backwards way of marketing anything ever. We live in a society where you can get on Facebook and have 150,000 things sold to you in the span of 3 flips of your screen. And none of those things are graphic novels or comic books. And they have targeted marketing. They know exactly what all of us like to read, and they know exactly what we're doing all day long. And none of us are getting ads for comic books on our phone. None of us. And that's because the publishers are failing at modern marketing. Like, it's just
we sent a press release to Bleeding Cool, Dave. What do you want from us?
There's an advertisement in the book.
People read that website.
No, hey,
people.
We advertised our blood hunt in 450 different copies of our books this month. Good
exactly.
job.
So there is I don't even want to get into it, but I have personal ideas and theories around how modern comic book marketing can and should work, and no one is doing it. There are a few publishers out there who are being smart little mammals instead of big dinosaurs, and they're starting to figure it out. But for by and large, it's just not happening in a manner, in a way that people are. It's just not happening. Period. So I think that's the first step in terms of like getting on the spinner rack. Is like, hey, Marvel, DC, major publishers need to learn about modern marketing techniques and then apply them, and then you'll see it change.
Yeah,
but until they it's going to be what you're saying is like, how do we get it in front of people? Well, do what everyone else is doing. Literally everyone else.
Comic book marketing is the Simpsons meme of we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
It's the biggest joke.
Spending all of your advertising budget on advertising in your own comics seems really fucking retarded to me. I don't know about anybody else. I mean,
no, it is.
Well, and the price is an inhibitor, especially if you're looking for a younger audience.
Let's bring new readers into the industry. I know. Let's print a 32-page preview.
Yes,
and charge people for it,
and charge the direct market buyers, like the people, the retailers, a certain amount of money for them to have that available in their stores. That's going to we're going to bring in.
Well, what Marvel's doing now with Timeless, they do a preview book of the stories they're going to do that year, and they charge you $6 for it. And this year they did Web of Spider-Man, which was a preview for all the Spider-Man stories in 2024. And they charge $5 for it. So they're charging you for preview material of stuff they're going to publish.
The shit that used to be inserted in the previews catalog.
Yes. Well, also, that's not how you get new readers, guys. That's not that's not how we grow the audience.
You make people mad.
And the preview sucked. So it made it worse.
The Web of Spider-Man was bad. They didn't have an Ultimate Spider-Man story in Web of Spider-Man, the one Spider-Man book everyone wants to read.
All right, I'm gonna step in it.
Well, that one's already selling, Wes. We don't need to do that one. That one's already doing all right.
I'm going to derail this, but and I think I'm going to step into it. Where are you guys with Spider-Boy right now?
No.
Why does it exist?
It shouldn't exist.
I don't read.
I knew it. I love it. I love it so much.
There are 900
I love Spider-Boy. I actually think
Spider-Boy's
a good book. I actually think that he could have been a good character.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not alone.
There's so many other characters is the problem, but I actually, if you actually read it, he has a good motivation and actually is kind of a damaged character more than what they usually have now as elevating a character. He's kind of You
And
know
I
what I
love
mean?
it.
Yeah, I do too.
I am loving that book. That's like my favorite book right now.
It's
I
one of mine.
really like it. I'm glad at least one of you likes it.
Yeah, I do.
Here's
like
the thing.
I haven't read it, so I can't weigh in one way or the other.
Here's the thing. I refuse to read it.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because it doesn't matter how good this is when you've done it 400 times in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've been burned 300 of them. I didn't bother to give the last 100 a try. I'm definitely not giving the next 100 a try.
It is the problem, but it is better than a lot of the others. Like I said,
It doesn't matter. You've already
think
burned the
I think with
audience.
this one, Dan Slott has somehow managed to.
You mean Christos Gage?
yeah,
I think he is somehow he has thread the needle in a way that appeals to me. Like he's giving me just a little bit of that familiarity, right? Like it's Spider-Boy, right? Like you've got that Spider-Man sort of like some of the tropes of Spider-Man, but there's enough really new, interesting stuff in there as well that it's like, oh, okay, I got my comfort food, but I'm also like, tentatively stepping out into the wild and looking around and seeing what's happening. I just love the book, and also Paco Medina's art is never been better.
It's really good.
Umberto Ramos did the costume designs for this, and he's Umberto Ramos is like top 10 all time almost. And then Steve Lealoha is doing backup art for the backup stories, and it's really, really good. I'm really enjoying it.
I think
Did you read Strange Academy?
No, but I want to.
That was
Is that
Umberto
good?
Ramos with Scotty
That's
Young.
good.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I wouldn't give.
Love that
See,
one.
here's the thing. I wouldn't give Strange Academy a try either because they did. Okay, they did it. All right, they did Young Avengers and it went well, and then they did Young everything else for 10 years, and I got Look, they do something well, and then they try to repeat it, and they miss 100 times in a row. And then by the time they get it right the second time, all of us have given up. And that's why you can't get, that's why these publishers are having trouble getting something over, because they get it over once and then you end up with an infinite number of photocopies of it until it finally copies right and works again. You capture lightning in a bottle again, but now you've burned out so much of the potential already shrinking audience.
And it is a shame because, I mean, the idea of Spider-Boy, and even a Strange Academy that you're saying, Doc, but Spider-Boy, there's so many hurdles that people like. If I say to people, oh, you got to read Spider-Boy, they hate Dan Slott. They don't want another Spider character. All these. So when you get to it, though, I haven't had somebody who actually then tried and read it more than one issue that came back and said they didn't like it. Most of the people do, but there are hurdles. And there are
Jim
big
and
hurdles.
I do
They're
read.
self-created.
Yeah, Jim and I do read comic books for a living, and we do lots of reviews and stuff. So we were compelled to read it, Jim, because of our jobs.
Yes. Yeah, well,
you wouldn't have read it probably.
I probably wouldn't have. I actually had a video where I thought, why are we getting this? And then I always give something at least a chance, the number one, and I liked it enough. And then, but it's good, and it actually has like some heart to it, and actually is a different character. Like the idea of having all those Spider characters, he's such a unique character overall, not even just the Spider version. He actually feels like a little kid. He does some things that aren't right or good, but he doesn't know. And I just hope that it ends up not being just a Christos Gage book then, and then it kind of loses its oomph. Like
It was weird when he showed up in Gang War. You're
Yeah.
like, you gonna eat somebody?
He's
Like,
just there. And even then, that gave people, I think, the wrong idea of the character as well. But I mean, when we're talking about he showed up with Jackpot, I'll tell you, Jackpot's terrible, but Spider-Boy, pretty good.
David, one of our regulars on the channel, Eric O'Sullivan, Sully, has a question for you in the chat. He wants to know if you're blocked on Twitter by Dan Slott, because he said he's blocked on Twitter by Dan Slott, and that's why he won't spend any money with
Yeah,
him.
he won't.
Called himself Slott of Octavius.
I don't have any problems with Dan Slott. He seems like a super comic. I don't know him, but he seems like a comic book nerd. Like, how can you get mad at a fellow nerd?
Well, I think it's
Silver Surfer.
Oh, come on! Have you been to a comic book store? Have you been on the internet?
His Silver Surfer with I don't get on the internet.
Yeah,
his
that's
Silver Surfer.
No, listen,
is,
David. I have friends in the comic book industry who stopped talking to other childhood friends because they had a disagreement about how time travel worked. Nerds will get angry at each other for the dumbest shit. I saw two guys almost get into a fight at a Transformers convention over whether Rumble and Frenzy were red and blue.
Yeah, I don't.
Normal.
I largely stay off social media. I'm too busy reading.
That's the
comic
big
books.
problem. Dan doesn't. And
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
he used to be pretty surly in the message boards,
Is
you know,
he?
even before.
Yeah.
Seems like,
Yeah.
I don't know everything. Like he just seems like another nerd who
Oh,
is doing
no.
like
Here's the thing.
Spider-Man's like his dream
Yeah.
job, right?
He's
like,
an attack, but he goes on the attack before anybody. You
Oh.
just say hi
Attacks
to the
him.
guy, and
Yeah.
he thinks that you're being, you're attacking him. He's
Right.
really
He'll do
I-
name
I
searches.
thought
He'll
his-
do name searches for himself to find people talking about his books, whether or
My
not they tagged
experience-
him, and then he'll get into fights with them, and they're like, "I didn't even tag you."
My experience with Dan Slott is he did a Silver Surfer run with Mike Allred, and I thought it was delightful. And then I read one or two of his. I think I read that recent Spider-Man series, but mostly I started with Spider-Boy when he came into the Spider-Man series. And now I'm reading Spider-Boy. That's kind of like
Are you talking about the
that's
Edge
my
of
That's,
Spider-Verse?
that's fair.
that's kind of my experience with Dan Slott.
Well, let's hear from the people.
He blocked me. He blocked me when I joked with him that I liked Spider-Verse when it was called Crisis on Infinite Darkwings, and then he blocked me. I was like, I was just a joke. I was just yeah. By the way, I've made jokes with Chip Zdarsky, and Chip Zdarsky's retweeted him. Like, it's like I walked
He has
into
more
a
of a sense of humor.
yeah, well, I walked into a VIP room once at a con, and Zdarsky was there, and I was like, "Zdarsky, my old nemesis," and he turned around, and balled his fists up, and put him up. It's like you never get that out of Dan. Dan would like call security on you.
Let's hear for the peeps. We've got Nerd. What new characters in the last 3 years do you think had the most potential to be iconic mainstays in comics mythos, but flop because of
I guess
I
my
think
boy is the answer.
Flatline?
Wonder Girl.
Flatline had a
Punch.
punch.
Yeah,
Oh
line.
no, Flatline. Yeah.
Flatline.
Or no,
Flatline.
Yara Floor. Yara Floor.
Yara
I said
Floor is
Yara,
another
but
one.
that's a Rippaverse character. Yara Floor.
Yeah.
Is Silencer more than 3 years old? It's
Yeah,
all a
it's
blur
definitely-
now.
Silence
That's
Okay.
was good.
5
Oh,
years
that's like
ago. But
2018.
Silencer was really good. I like
Yeah.
Silencer a lot.
What was the
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
Lopresti ended up
Grail,
doing for a while?
like,
the big monster guy.
Damage.
Yeah, Grail was good. Damage. Yeah, like that. That
Yeah,
could have
Damage.
been something.
Hulk, you mean?
Yeah.
Come on, it was different
Version of
enough, and it
That's-
was drawn by Lopresti at the end there. How can you not like that?
Yeah,
Guy draws
I'm
monsters
gonna,
like nobody's business.
I'm gonna agree with Wes. I think Flatline had so much potential.
Yeah.
Was such a cool character. They gave like a great start to it and then just kind of fumbled it.
Not Clown Hunter.
So
What about any
No,
of the
fuck
James
Yeah, that's the
fuck
James.
Clown
the
Hunter,
James-
fuck
all-
Ghostmaker, like
all the James Tinian
the
dollar
Gardner.
store versions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite, the First Victim. Remember that? First Victim.
I
I don't know. Are
Nobody
there any
remembers.
good Marvel characters that have come out lately? I'm drawing a
Bloodline.
blank.
I think the last good Marvel characters that
Bloodline.
had legs and potential were all created by Rob Liefeld in the 90s. I think that
Well,
was
I
it.
guess it's Spider Boy. It's a relatively new
But
character.
is he? I mean, but nobody's talking about it. Like that's the
Yeah.
other thing. Is I mean, I know that like nobody's talking about comics in
Well,
general.
they did
except for
release it
the drama
almost exactly at the same time as Superior Spider-Man came out.
Ghost.
And
Man
obviously
could've been
people are going to be
good.
more
Yeah.
interested in Superior Spider-Man than Spider-Boy.
Well,
Yeah,
also because Marvel's doing the thing they always do, which is they have a complete inability to evaluate the quality of their own product. So what they do is they have a dozen different ideas. They throw all of them at the wall. When none of them really stick, mostly because they're getting knocked off the wall by the other ones that are falling off the wall. That's what happens. There's no chance. It's hard to get through the noise and through the chaff to find the wheat.
Yeah, I do think that I would love for all publishers to trim their lines.
Absolutely.
I don't disagree with that. I do think
Yeah.
that a consolidation of lines, there's two things: a consolidation of the lines, but also start paying talent what they're worth, so you can keep them around.
So maybe they'll give you a good idea every once in a while instead of keeping it for themselves.
Well, yeah, like the reason that Rob Liefeld gave away cool concepts like Cable and Deadpool and some of the other stuff he did is because Marvel cut him a pretty decent deal, right? Like they gave him ownership, ongoing, for lack of a better term,
Royalty.
it's for easily. He's still got some ownership. He's still got some skin in the game on those things, and so he's invested in those things, and he was invested early on to give them really good stuff, right? And it's paid off for them, and it's paid off for him. And I don't think those kind of deals are available anymore. I could be wrong, maybe, but those kinds of deals certainly need to come back and get into play, because if I'm a really good talent right now, I'm not working in comic books for very long, because I'm just going to go make more money doing animation or
Literally anything else.
I'll just start a Patreon and I'll make more money, like, so I think that those two things definitely need to happen. Probably the paying talent better first. But I don't disagree with you. I think that a trimming of the line and a consolidation of talent, because again, for me, it's all about the talent, and I follow talent. And so if you've got nothing but really good talent, if you only got 12 books, but all of them are like, super
Bangers.
high end, like bangers, then you're going to sell a lot more comics. And I do think that you can get some momentum outside of comic books by doing that also, right? If you've got one comic book that's selling 1 million copies, suddenly it's being talked about by everybody, right? Outside, like mainstream media is going to start covering that, because 1 million of anything today, right, is a big deal. So, and I still think comics has that potential, right? Like Dogman did it, right? So it's got that potential still.
I want to say thank you very much to Martin P. No question, but really appreciate that. Now, Aaron, you're going to be bouncing out in 4 minutes.
Yeah. I can only stay till 9 lately.
I also have to bounce, guys. I want to just say thanks so much since we're doing it. I appreciate everybody for having me on. Thanks for everybody for letting me speak my mind about a few things.
No, you're welcome.
No, it's good to have
Before
like,
you
insight.
go. Before you go, though, you have to make a recommendation to us.
Yeah, you got any comic books to recommend?
I
know one you should recommend.
I got a couple artists.
Super Kaiju, Rock and Roller Derby, Fun Time Go.
Yes, exactly.
Link in the video description.
Yeah.
And also, if you guys are like, I can't copy it from the video description here, you can jump over to my Twitter, because I just tweeted out the link. So go check it out. I got a tip, guys. Just let me go first, because I really got to go. I recommend David's book. Go check it out. I also recommend Battle Chronicle Soul Striker this week by V. Ken Marion. That campaign is up as well. You got a little bit longer on that one, so if you're like, I can only back one book right now this week, go back Roller Derby Fun Time Go, and then after that, just take a look at Battle Chronicle, because it looks really good and he's a great artist.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Really appreciate it.
Love you guys. See you later.
See ya.
I'm going to recommend a couple artists because that's what I'm into. Like, I don't know if anybody's seen any of the Trad Moore stuff that's come out in the last year or two, but Trad Moore for me is like, that guy's wild. I don't know where his brain is at, and I love it. I love
Doctor Strange book was very interesting.
Yeah. And also Riley Rossmo, who's still, I think he's doing it on Sandman right now over at DC, and he was
finished.
Yeah, that just recently finished. Yeah.
Did it. And he did some Harley Quinn stuff a couple years back too. Riley Rossmo, I think, is just like one of those talents that is just like blows my mind. Like, I don't know how that guy does what he does. And then the other one is
I don't either.
A specific book, Do a Power Bomb.
Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fantastic.
Read that recently. I've been meaning to read it for a while. I've had it for a while, but I just read it recently, and wow, what a great, fantastic read that was. And Daniel Warren Johnson, I'm glad he's doing Transformers, but I don't understand why he is, because somebody at that level where he's at right now, he's like at the top of his game. He's in top form, and I feel like he could be doing stuff that he owns, but instead he's chosen to do Transformers, which makes me think, hey, Skybound must be taking care of him, right? Which so great. So I think Dan Warren Johnson might be a good example of how the industry can, rise, lift things. But anyway, Danny Warren Johnson's Do a Powerbomb is amazing, and I think we're all really lucky to have him on Transformers right now because it's just a super fun book too. So those will be mine.
Well, thank you very much, David. Really appreciate you showing up and talking some comic books with us.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me plug my book, and this was fun.
All right.
Thanks,
See you later,
David.
brother.
See ya.
Righty. Next up, we got Cal Bio. I decided not to mention that I don't like Riley Rossmo.
I couldn't help myself.
I just smiled and looked like
I muted myself.
Not my favorite artist, but I think David was a good guy.
Yeah,
he's a good
Very
guy.
open, good stuff.
Oh, I love them as a guest.
Just not an art critic.
No, V. Ken Marion's a fantastic artist. Obviously,
Yeah.
Dave Ward Johnson as
I
well.
love V. Ken. V. Ken put me in a couple issues, by the way. So take that.
Did you die?
Yeah. I've
There
been
we
in a
go.
couple
It's worth
deals and I always die. It's funny.
Gallup says, what are the biggest differences between comics and manga is manga authors do not lash out on social media calling the customers all right. It's true.
You can also invest in the books. That's a big difference too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Japanese culture does not allow you to diss your customers. You have to show deference to them. That's why Peach Momoko got in all that trouble with that Comic-Con when she decided she wouldn't take money for autographs. So all the asshole white guys decided that we're going to have her autograph our hockey stick and whatever else we've got lying around.
Yeah, because tipping and stuff like that isn't really a thing either. So
yeah. He also says, but manga authors do get upset when activist Westerners who want to be white saviors change things to fit their standards of what credit. I don't know. Do they? Have we seen that?
I think the fans themselves get more mad than most of the manga authors just kind of lay low.
Yeah, very nice. We got HH, the guys at Sigma Comics. Shout out to Thinking Critical team from Fan Expo Philly. Keep it tuned to Thinking Critical and support this great team and head over to our website for the great indie comic books. Absolutely do that. Jim, are you going to Fan Expo Philly?
I'm not going down the street to go shopping.
What are you doing? You could go and hang out with HH and the boys.
I could. I'd be there.
It's too bad your wife has that necrosis in her hand.
That is true. They're like, get this homeless guy out of here. Like, stuff like that.
They think she was homeless because she's got a little spider bite?
I'm saying they may, I'd go there and I don't like people. It's just that.
You're not a people person?
No, not crowds. I'm not a crowd person. I can't stand it. I get all, weirded
You get
out.
clammy?
Yeah.
Stage fright?
Yeah. I sit there and why are they paying attention to everybody but me is what I say.
HH does not have that problem. He's very, very extroverted person.
I get tickets each year to like the New York Comic Con, things like that. I've never even thought of going or anything in Philly either.
You get tickets and then don't go.
Yep. Yeah, I've told the people who send. I say not to send them. I'm not going to use them.
People just send you tickets to the con?
Yeah, I get this email and then I say I'm not going. I don't want to go, and then I get them in the mail. I throw them away.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a jerk.
Except Nerd says, "Boy, I wish I was there to call in right now. Frustrating." We talked about doing a call-in show with Perch and myself, but that never came to fruition. It's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Now, Jim, you used to do a call-in show.
Yeah.
But it made the show. I guess there was a dude that would just get drunk and talk comic books with you for an hour and a half.
Yeah, there was a guy. We would get two guys in particular, and their calls were an hour and a half, 2 hours. They just kept going. But these were more. It was more of a hotline type thing. Then we decided we were going to do a regular deal, and then that went really off the rails. Like
so, the hotline was they would record you a message for an hour and a half.
Yeah. That's what it was. And it was supposed to be the hot, like you were supposed to call in and say
the hot take.
That this Batman this week sucks. And then, that's it. They do it a lot
Tom
on the
King
sports
can
radio.
My nuts,
Yeah,
son.
like that. Like that. And it ended up where the one guy would get drunk and start singing in the middle of it. I mean, this guy was crazy. And then another guy would get on and it was pretty much each week a manifesto. It was like pretty bad. And the thing is, I can't go through an hour and a half call to screen it. Shit would come up on these calls. I'm like, oh God, and we'd have to like stop it. And it was the worst.
Be like, I'm pretty sure that one was a crime.
Yeah. I'm like, I think he meant allegedly and shit like that. It was really bad. And so
probably why the call-in's not happening, Nerd.
No, it's bad, but it is fun.
Wrestling call-in podcast that I listen to, and it is the same three dudes every
It usually
single
ends
week.
up being that, right? And the only good thing is to end every call with like, "Oh, so what do you think of this?" And when they go, you hang up on them before they can say it, and that's funny. That's funny stuff.
Dr. Touchdown, cheers from Missouri West and the Think Critical gang. Enjoy the content. Going to my first small comic convention later today. Just curious, no thinking. What's everyone's favorite comic superhero? Thanks, guys. Well, appreciate that. I hope you're enjoying Missouri. I will be there in almost a year. I will be there in June of 2025. And then we were going to go to Dallas Fan Expo down in Dallas, Texas. So that's going to be exciting. My favorite comic superhero is Exo Manowar. Jim,
Mine's Dick Grayson of all iterations.
Yep. I'll say Dick Grayson, but the person I'd want to write the most is Huntress.
Cool.
Well, no, you guys can't have this. Jim and Josh, if you want to claim the same character, one of you has to be the biggest Dick Grayson Robin fan, the other one Nightwing. Who gets Nightwing?
I get Nightwing.
Well, there you go. Jim, you're the biggest Dick Grayson Robin fan.
I can't talk about Dick Grayson Robin and be like, that butt, though. I mean, then I'm going to jail. You know?
It's the cakes.
But we do want to make sure everybody knows that we love Dick. So that is number one. But
The
Dick
bottom
Grayson,
line.
that is
loves
the
Dick.
bottom line. That is.
That's right.
You know.
Doc, your favorite character is?
Wolverine.
Absolutely. Wraith X7. Marvel DC should put out a new type of digital comic that combines Comixology's guided view tech with motion comic tech.
I mean, at least it'd be a start. It would
They
be
tried.
something.
Marvel did.
I hate the guided view.
Well,
It's just me.
really?
I get very claustrophobic. It's hard to explain without being able to see the whole thing. It really throws me off. I don't know why.
Well, it shows you the whole thing, and then when you go through the guided
Yeah,
view, it takes you down to the page.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I feel like, well, regardless of whether or not they have guided view tech or any of that shit, you need a comic publisher, not part of some multi-billion-dollar, corporation, global fucking terrible conglomerate. That's actually going to do your comic distribution, your digital comic platform.
I need
needs
the
to
other
be
tech. I need to punch, like you can punch the screen and then the writer gets hit in real life. That's the view I need.
Hey, look, I'm still waiting for the remote control that allows me to kill the person on
Yes,
television.
I'm telling you.
But I've been waiting for that for 35 years.
Choose your own adventure.
I reach in,
That's Indiana Jones.
and you set up a queue that you have to pay. Like I'm there to strangle Dan Slott. I'm like reaching in, and I'm gonna get him.
Oh, I was imagining like Tom Taylor having a coffee and being like, why the hell did I just get slapped?
Yeah.
Why do I keep getting slapped by this one
You got the
guy?
most slappable face. of comics.
But
But they already tried motion comics at Marvel.
Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
I don't even
Didn't
care about guided view tech, motion comics. My point is, you just can't have Amazon or something like that running it.
Well, no,
There's
I
a
got you, but it was a
chance.
Marvel thing.
I know, but you need. Honestly, I think you need all of the publishers here
Yeah.
on like almost like a Hulu type
Single platform.
single
Mhm.
platform where they all own a percentage.
Yeah. It's great because you have that technology and they haven't even gotten to the part where you can get as good as what they had in the movie Big back
Yeah.
in the 80s, right? You keep wanting that, but it never happens.
Caleb says some of the localizers do demand credit and come across as they co-created the manga.
Fuck
No,
'em.
that's one thing. I'm saying that the authors themselves in Japan, they kind of just let it ride.
No. They're very
Yeah. friendly.
friendly. I don't really follow localizers. Is that how they act, Jim?
I've never really seen that many like that.
Egotism knows no bounds. I'll put
Yeah.
it that way.
To me, the localizers and things with the translation, it's like an umpire in baseball. You really don't even notice until they really
Seen and not
screw
heard.
up. Yeah, and when they screw up, then it's the worst. But usually it just go.
You don't notice whenever somebody does you don't know who the creatives are when somebody does a faithful adaptation
Yeah.
of something. It's only whenever they need to put their stamp on it that we actually recognize them, and that's their ego.
Jose to B says, happy free comic book day, gentlemen. Any books you guys are wanting to pick up for free comic book day 2024? I'm aiming for Jeremy Adams' Flash Gordon. Can't go wrong. That is a very, very good choice.
I'm not going.
I'm told Absolute Power free comic book day is really good. I'm not going to read it, but that's what I was told if you're interested.
I was told that as well.
Well, what are you looking forward to, Chip, for your free comic book day?
Is that a thing? Flash Gordon. I won't be going. I don't have a comic shop near me, so I won't be going, personally.
There's no comic shops in Philly?
I mean, I'd have to go into Philly. I'm a little outside of the deal. And even then, there's one. Well, there is a comic shop that's kind of close, but it goes in with a free comic book day story. I'll never go to that shop again. The guy got mad and yelled at my 2 youngest sons. And then I kind of threatened him, and then I got kicked out. So I'm not sure I'm allowed back there.
So, Jim, I've heard stories about your 2 youngest sons. He might have been in the right.
Well, this was years ago. They were kind of like, and it was me trying to get them, having some fun going into it. And they ended up, I think they were touching something like a book or something. The guy yelled on free comic book day, "Hey, unless you're buying that, put it down." So he's saying that to a 6-year-old. And I got mad. I might have fat shamed him as well. So
yeah, I would get mad about that.
I was really angry, and we ended up leaving. And I actually, because if I go, I'll buy a couple trades and things. I had a big stack of stuff I was going to get. I just put it down and left. It's pretty mad.
Very nice. You looking forward to anything, Josh?
I honestly couldn't even tell you what's being released for New Comic Book Day. So
free comic book day.
There's X-Men from the Ashes.
Yeah, not looking forward. I mean, I'm gonna read it eventually, but isn't it just gonna be a sample of it? I'd rather just sit down and let me just take the whole. I'll take the bullet. I want to read the full thing. Let me just. If I get the teaser, I'm not gonna pick up the full thing.
Man, I'd go for free comic book day, but there's not a comic book shop on my island. I have to go to Manila.
Yeah.
So there you go. A nerd says you guys must not know about the tension between the U.S. and Japan. That's what he's saying.
I'm assuming this has to do with localization and translations. No, I don't.
That sounds like the most boring thing to be up on. Quite.
No, I mean it might be interesting, but I don't. I do read manga, but I don't go to a lot of.
I read a ton of manga. I
Yeah.
don't care about that.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you very much for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. Maybe if there's something interesting, we'll eventually get to that stuff. But we do have some comic book recommendations. Obviously, I'll be talking to Drew on a very, very porous New Comic Book Week, and we'll probably get some frustrations out before we get to those. Josh, are you recommending any new books this week?
Yeah. So first off, Bear Pirate Viking Queen, freaking the art alone, it's worth it for the art alone. But it's a hefty book, solid story. Definitely recommend picking it up. Savage Sword of Conan. Those are the only 2 I've read outside of Nightwing and Blood Hunt. But I don't recommend Nightwing or Blood Hunt. So
Is the Bear Pirate Viking Queen, is that the next iteration of B from that fucking bar in Nightwing? From the Rick Grayson? She become a bear hunter and a Viking?
She could.
No,
I'm waiting for
rip
that.
off of Moby Dick.
More dick.
Instead of a whale being, it's a bear.
See, Josh, the problem is that Wes wanted more pirates.
Right, but it's still good.
I like pirate stories, and that's a shitty pirate story. That's all I'm saying.
Nah, I disagree. I think it's a good story.
Because you're not a real pirate fan. You probably like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wait. We're saying that I'm not a pirate fan.
The only pirates I know are the ones that lose 100 games every year.
Exactly. Doc knows those. We know some other pirates.
Oh, yeah. I was making a gay joke, but
I know.
Okay.
I was making a Pittsburgh joke. That's
right.
Yeah.
I wasn't making jokes. I was severely let down by the book, Josh.
Yes.
And I'm severely let down by you. I can't believe you didn't promote Nightwing Annual, even though I thought it was joking.
Oh God, it's awful. You want to know how a character is a bad character when they are completely different every time you see them.
Yeah, and
that's a bad character.
And this annual completely different every 2 pages.
Oh, fuck my life.
There's more twist upon twist ever. Crazy.
Yeah. All right, Jim, you recommend any books?
Yeah, Get Fury. Number 1.
That's the one.
That's my one this week. That's really it. And just everybody look up some pirate stuff. I guess. Pirates of sorts, not the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, don't look them up. They're just gonna make you sad.
Yeah, but Get Fury was really, really good, and I actually hadn't read any of the Punisher Max stuff. So when I went into it, I kind of went in expecting one thing, and really was happy that I got something else from it.
definitely echo those sentiments. Doc, you are the finale here. You got any comic books to recommend?
Right. Yes, I do, but nothing new. In fact, I'm going to go with 2. So, Wolverine, I think this is issue 41, mostly because it's a fucking awesome cover with Wolverine, Cable, and Sabretooth fighting in a goddamn sewer. It's really, really good. Mark Silvestri art.
Mark Brooks, huh?
Mark Silvestri, damn it. I don't even think Mark Brooks was drawing it. He was probably still in kindergarten. No, this is a dope fucking book. It's a really fun story. This is actually a 2-part story. 41 and 42 are 2-part story with Cable and Sabretooth as guest stars in it. Then we'll go with my personal favorite Wolverine cover of all time. I don't know why, but this cover still is my favorite ever. This is just some random dude that's a zookeeper that's trying to stab Wolverine in the rain. But no, this is a cool cover with I don't know, the coloring on it is really rad, and it's just really good, and it's a good story with Wolverine and a psychotic zookeeper. Then we will go with, all right, so the Psylocke, back whenever Betsy was still a character anybody gave a shit about. She had this miniseries. This is issue 1, but this is the second print. This one is the very, very hard to find second print. Oddly enough, I found an entire set of, I found the first print and the second print and 2 copies of issues 3, 4, or 2, 3, and 4 in half price books a number of years ago. So I just bought them all for 50 cents a piece because that's a good place to find hidden gems. Well, it used to be. I don't think it is anymore. So, and then we will finish off with Mark Spector Moon Knight. This is, again, back when people gave a shit about Moon Knight, but it was because Stephen Platt was drawing it. And, Spider-Man. Fuck, this is so glary. There's so much glare on this right now. Sorry, guys, but I think this is issue 57. I'm not. Oh yeah, it is. Hey, I can look at the back of the label and answer my own question. Wow, go me. I'm smart. But yeah, so Moon Knight 57, Spider-Man guest appearance, and Stephen Platt Moon Knight art. So those are my recommendations.
Very good. I want to say thank you very much to everybody. I hope you enjoyed the time with David and you enjoy Free Comic Book Day. And we will be back next week on the heels of an awesome video I recorded with Doc that will come out on Sunday. And then we'll likely hit it up on the Comics Aficionados because it is really, really good. All have a good weekend. I'll see you around. Enjoy the NBA playoffs. All that good stuff. Royals are winning.